Coming to you from Blue Crew Studio in Temecula, California, it's the Whiskey Throttle Show, taking you inside the lives and careers of the legends and leaders of action sports. Today's guest is brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha is the industry leader in 2- and 4-wheel fun and performance. Motocross, off-road, adventure, side-by-side, Yamaha sets the standard. Yamaha revs your heart. The Whiskey Throttle Show is presented by Motorsport.com. It doesn't matter if you like to pull a throttle cable on a dirt bike, street bike, side-by-side. Motorsport.com is putting riders first with parts, gear, and accessories, including some of our partners like Troy Lee Designs, Dunlop, Pro Circuit, and more. They offer first returns free on apparel so you can buy with confidence. And Motorsport.com offers fast, free shipping on all orders over $79. Make your next ride your best ride. Visit Motorsport.com. Troy Lee made a name for himself as the most elite helmet painter in all forms of motorsport racing. His ability to make a stationary object look fast is something rare. That creativity gave way to motocross and mountain bike gear, helmets, and an arsenal of protective equipment aimed at keeping racers on the track and out of a doctor's office. The 2025 TLD line is out, and it's as fast as ever. Troy Lee Designs, blending speed and style. Hey guys, thanks for joining us here for the Whiskey Throttle Show in Blue Crew Studio. I got a great guest today. This guy has been around the industry forever, working harder than, as my partner Jeff would say, an ugly stripper. Man, he does. He grinds. Jay Clark, welcome to the show, buddy. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And appreciate the tire change early this morning.
All right.
One of your jobs is Dunlop media guy, so I get to see a lot that way, which is cool. But
I have lots of hats, as you know. And I thought about like the Ricky Bobby thing where all the logos.
You should get a suit.
Yeah, I thought about that. But better yet, I brought in props for today.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
what are we, Gallagher? You going to smash a watermelon over here?
You didn't even realize. But I tried to keep them all within the family. So we got okay. All the companies that I work with. We got Pro X, Blaster, ODI.
I just like to
Dunlop.
say Jay is
no
not
one else
afraid. Jay is not afraid to plug a sponsor.
Yeah. And if we run out of stuff to talk about, I brought some of the top CDs of all time right here.
80s rock classics.
Right.
Got it.
And then I brought in a bunch of magazines because we do lots of magazines. Motion Pro.
Oh, yeah,
I use
tools.
this today. Yeah, Motion Pro.
All right.
Blaster. All right, so we're pretty set on. We got some products here. We got the. I don't wear hats really very much. You know, Spencer does mainly, but I don't wear hats too much. I got my head's weird shaped, I guess, and so creates lots of. This is a brand new motocross action. So
you're really going to throw these magazines right on my desk,
right
like
here,
that.
just like here.
The disrespect is palpable.
No, but we've done lots of project builds.
Of course we have.
I went through and added them up yesterday. Went through all the Racer X Vital, Whiskey Throttle Media, all of our builds.
Okay.
It was 101 of them.
Oh, a beautiful number.
Right. So it was a lot.
Huh. That is a lot of builds. Well, we're going to get into that because you're really the godfather of project bikes, I think.
Right, yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But we start all our shows with the motorsport.com whole shot. You guys, you need anything for your bike. Pro X parts, you could get ODI parts, Dunlop tires, doesn't matter. Go to motorsport.com. Don't leave the house. You can just ship it right to you. You get free shipping over there with those guys. They're awesome. And great customer service, great return policies. Motorsport.com is awesome, and we're stoked to have them a part of our program. We start with just a couple of light questions here, and you can see what I got going. But
I can't read any, but that's the advantage.
Oh, the eyes are so bad?
No, there's no way I'm reading that right there.
So one thing I think it's funny, and we joke about this all the time, is we're like rainy day riding buddies. Yeah. And this goes back. This is what I was thinking about prepping for the show. This goes back to like the mid-'90s.
Mid-'90s. So you were riding for PC, and I met you I was riding with Michael Brandis.
Yeah.
I would ride with him a lot because, so back then in the mid-'90s.
I always thought that was a funny match, you and Brandis.
Yes. And we rode a lot together. And he's a good dude. And so he would be doing crazy stuff, crazy things. But then when he was around me, it was all normal.
Brandis is crazy because you're right. He is like, we were friends and we rode a lot and hung out with the same crowd in our heyday, like when we were racing, and he was the party dude. I backed out. Like once in a while I'd hang out with them, but then I'm just like, this is
next level.
They just kept going. He didn't have brakes.
Yeah, such a cool dude. And so
but then he also would be this really funny, chill, like great guy. He was a great teammate to have, especially if you were trying to have a good time.
Yeah, so I worked through those 90s. I was working from home, and I worked for Weisco solely back then. And so I was...
You were known as Weisco J.
Weisco J.
Yeah.
So Banner J, Weisco J, Sticker J, and all that. So I was one of the few people that were available
to go ride
on a weekday. Guys are like, they need someone to like cart them off if they crash and die on the hill track, right? They want someone out there. So I was the guy. I would be this novice guy that was riding with all these pros all the time, all winter long. And so I would meet, and I remember meeting you out in Nuevo.
Was it Nuevo?
At the top, by the
old
very top.
Oh gosh, Scientology.
Yeah, China camp.
I remember that one. Yeah,
the cross on the rock on the way up. So that road's been cleaned up a little bit. As I was dual sporting through there. Yeah.
Jay, we don't. The first rule of riding club is you don't talk about riding club.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing decent left there anymore. Everybody pretty much knows it's all pretty much ridden out.
But we got our spots, and I had to burn my test rider, Cody. He was like, "Hey, man, you want to go riding?" This was the day we went, and I said, "Yeah, man, I can't." And then I posted a video of me riding, and I'm like, I told him, I said, "Sorry, dude, I couldn't take you there." It's like Nirvana for dirt bikes, and it's a limited admission.
It's one of the few things I really, really enjoy in life is riding, wet hill tracks or a trail ride, up in like the high desert. But nothing beats those moto days. It's like we had last week. You and I went out last week, and then a couple weeks before that, you and I had a rain day, and nothing beats those days.
Well, it to me is, for me, it's like going back in time. Because we did have that in the 90s, but even when you think back, look at the way Unadilla used to be in the 70s. That's what it was.
Yeah.
They just carved that thing out in this farmer's field. It's like old school moto, and it's just gotten the places to do it have gotten just built on, right? And it's more and more rare. And I think on the East Coast, this doesn't even exist.
No.
They don't have open land like this.
And most of it's not. People think it's open, but most of it's owned by somebody. It's just that it's not fenced off, and it's there. And when I think of those 90s times over by Railroad Cottonwood, Mike Brandis would make these supercross tracks. Did you ever ride one of his supercross?
On the housing pads?
So there was these housing pads, and they were roughed out, these housing pads, and they sat for a good 5 or 6 years, 7 years. They sat a long time. Well, he figured a way to make a supercross track because he couldn't get into a supercross track to practice. So he made a course in there, and then you would jump across like a ravine or a gully. There was no sizing this up. It was just you committed. And he's on a 125, just and clearing these things. And he'd lay a supercross track in there on these housing pads, and it was next level.
I remember the Cottonwood one, and we had one. Do you remember? It would have been, north and west of Tuscany Hills.
Yeah.
Remember? It was like we only had 1 year on that, but that was kind of a weird spot too.
Yeah, that railroad area there and down at Butterfield by Temecula, that area, that's all houses now. Those two areas, I remember going there and being, 20 to 30 top 50 pros with Henry and Lampson and Rhino and McGrath and Emig. I mean, all in the same day. I mean, you guys, Phil would be out there and just so many guys. Because when it rained, they couldn't go ride Supercross.
Yeah.
And they all enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was this is what you did.
Right.
All of South Temecula now, there was nothing out there. It was empty. And I mean, I have great memories of, Jeremy, Budman, Factory Phil, Rhino, Lammy sometimes. Just all the guys that were here, which then it was everybody. We'd all go out in the hills and we'd lay in tracks. We'd find jumps.
Wyndham a lot. And he would ride out at, and Deegan, I'd run into them at, when we drive in the back way to Railroad by the Walmart, we'd come in.
Yeah, Railroad Canyon.
Railroad Canyon. We'd come in that way. And Wyndham actually is one that kind of taught me I couldn't ride hill climbs. He's doing these hill climbs on a 125, and I'm not making it on a 250. And he's showing me how to get up on the tank. And he'd put his foot out. So when you start wheeling, he just puts his foot out in front of him a little bit, and that would bring the front end down. And I still do that today. It's really cool little trick. And if you just move your foot forward, 6 inches or a little bit, it just brings that front end right down, and you got your traction going up. So he taught me that. And then I remember watching Brian out there, Deegan, just training when it was kind of fairly dry. It would just be, right. And wherever it would run out of gas, that was on a Suzuki, he would push it back to the truck,
Oh, man.
And his trainer guy was that big stocky.
Bear. Wasn't it Bear? His name was
the stocky dude. I haven't seen him around. I don't know whatever happened to him, but stocky dude.
I don't remember. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He was a gnarly dude, and so a lot of people didn't think that he would train a lot, but he trained hard.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he really did. It was cool. And that's where you saw everybody. There were I remember being out there by myself and just him, and him and his trainer, riding.
Well, that was like one of Pro Circuit's main test tracks for outdoor suspension. Bones would go there all the time, Railroad Canyon, and then there was another one over in off Clinton Keith Road.
Yep.
At the base of the hill there. What do they call it?
Bear Creek.
Bear Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the first places I found.
All houses.
Right.
Yeah. Actually,
the very back, you can still get in there.
There's berms back there.
I took a dual sport in there. Yeah. It's cool.
What would you say? I remember, tell me if you remember this one. I know you remember this one. It was the El Nino season, so 98.
Yeah.
Right where the 15 and 215 split if you're going north.
Yeah.
And I mean, right off to the side of the freeway. One of the coolest tracks maybe we ever made. Remember the off-camber ruts and like it was this perfect dirt.
They were just slots, and I remember specifically. I'm not sure if you were there, but there was like 30 trucks lined up, right? And when the cops rolled in, cops showed up. You remember that? Uh-huh. So the cops show up, and there's like 2 or 3 of them, and they're just looking like, where do we start? Like they're just like, what are you guys thinking?
And it's like factory Suzuki box vans. I think Albie was there that day, and. It was a national.
Full national. I had a hard time getting around the track because the ruts were so deep down in the valleys, dragging feet and stuff.
It was just incredible. Well, if you had to look back, and we're going on 20 years of that now?
Yeah.
My math's not very good. No, more than that. Is it?
30 years.
From, let's say, 95 to now. So what would you say is your favorite track?
I think Butterfield. Down there at Butterfield, because it had elevation.
Which Butterfield? So if you're going up Butterfield stage, it'd be to your left?
Yeah, so you would turn, when you came on 79, you would turn right on Butterfield, and it was just right there in the left. And I remember running out of gas. I emptied it, and I remember Lamson was jumping over, because it had these hills, and I was just riding over the hills, and he was jumping.
Like a big tabletop.
Yeah, he was just jumping over the hills. So those kind of tracks that had elevation, as you know now, it's hard for us to find that elevation. Yeah, we find some stuff, but it's tough to find elevation because it's getting harder to find those little spots. But they're still there. You just got to go closer to Barstow each time.
If you guys are looking for them, just head to Hesperia. That's really where the magic is, and you can find it out there. Actually, there is good stuff up there.
There is.
And Kiefer, I think we'll show you around.
So, and I've ridden with him up there, and I love going up there. But for me, the tracks are great, no problem. But if I'm going to go all the way that far, then I like to go trail riding in the mountains.
Yeah.
There's these, the mountains up in that area and towards, out towards more desert, even towards, Barstow, going towards the desert way. The trails are just so fun.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm like slowing down. I'd like to break it up a little bit during the winter, but a good moto day, I think is the best. And when I think about, like, if I always think about, like, when you're 70 years old, are you going to be riding? And it's like the one thing I think you could ride the longest would be, believe it or not, is just like a sand track. If you just had like a basic sand track.
You think so? I would say
I get hurt more than trail riding. I mean, because I get hurt. I crashed Saturday trail riding, just hitting a tree, and it knocked. And I wasn't going, crazy or anything. But stuff happens more than just like a smooth sand track. I'm saying you could keep it smooth and just keep it watered nice. Like kind of like Mark's place, but maybe with less jumps. The place that you could water and keep it smooth. And I think you could do that into your 70s.
Well, I'm hoping Elon Musk would come up with something. I get some whole new legs and just start over. Because the want to go fast is still there, just the body won't do it.
Yeah, and I never see. Luckily, at least the last 30 years, I realized I'm not going to go fast. I realized I'm not going to go fast. So then I'm like, I just want to go for a long time and enjoy it. So that's what I'm hoping, and I still do. Obviously, enjoy riding.
And your move is a 50-minute moto, and you're done. Yeah.
Usually, and then I'll do like a 10 or 15 as a cool down.
Just a cooler down.
Yeah, and take some GoPro, whatever, rub it into everybody's face that I'm out riding today.
Yeah, perfect. You are now like a podcaster also. For people who don't know, you have a podcast called That Moto Show?
That Moto Show. So we do a little, with Donnie, we do a little.
And this is my old producer, Donnie.
Yeah.
DJ Donnie.
Yeah, we do a tech podcast. So there wasn't really a void for that. And we don't really want to compete with everybody that, with all the guys that have all the current riders on there or even interviewing people. So we just answer. I get so many tech emails, and that's another thing that really people like with our content, and is that we also help and support people with the tire stand drawings or whatever it is. So they're constantly emailing us with tech questions.
Yeah. You fill a great niche because I call you with questions. I'm like, hey Jay, well, how do this happen? You know, what do I do on this thing? You're just really good with all that, and I got questions about how you got that way. But I don't know of another podcast that does that. So you guys are really filling a cool little void.
Yeah, and even like a lot of areas of the country, there's not a lot of good bikes for sale. Even that, I get guys, so I'll try to help them find the best bike. They'll send me 2 or 3 links, and I go, no, yes, that one's okay, but it's $1,000 too much, kind of thing. So if they send me links, I'll click on it and give them my thoughts.
Facebook Marketplace, where do you know?
Yeah, that's been the new go-to.
Okay.
It's kind of taking over. The thing I like about Facebook Marketplace is you can do a little research on the person, to go, okay, so they seem
this guy's a scumbag.
Doesn't look like a scammer. And but regardless, I always tell these guys back east, a lot of them are traveling, 2 to 6 hours to go pick up a bike, right? So I say, hey, get them on the phone. A lot of people don't want to talk on the phone anymore, man. You got to, message them and say you want to get on the phone and see if they sound legit and they got the title, those types of things. So that's a real help for people and in California here, out west, there's so many more bikes for sale.
Yeah, I guess we probably our perception of how it works is different because we can drive in an hour to like
you could go
most of the bikes.
We could go find a good bike within an hour here for a good deal right now. No problem.
Yeah, I was rooting around in there the other night and found a couple, and it's crazy though the price of things. Like, what was the bike I was looking at? I think it was because I've always wanted a '99 2000 RM 125.
Yeah,
That's kind of my favorite bike ever. And they're tough to find.
Right.
You can find a lot of 01, 23.
Yeah.
But like for whatever reason, those are tough. And this guy wanted like $3,000 for this, and it was hammered.
Right.
Hammered. It's been sitting outside for 10 years.
And we can talk about some of that.
And I said, will you sell it for this? Absolutely not. Like, okay, good luck.
Some of the downsides of those bikes that need a full, if they've been ridden hard like that, a ton of those parts aren't available anymore. There's no cylinders for them. There's no stators.
Yeah.
There's no transmission gears. So you're having to search eBay to find some of this stuff. Very expensive. So I caution guys, if you're going to buy an old thing like that, you got to really be careful. And then what your plans on doing with it? Do you plan on riding it a bunch or just fixing it, riding it a little bit and it's more of a showpiece? Then it's something good to do. Because guys you can fix up something real nice and then you go ride it and you blow it up. It could be a nightmare.
Well, remember we built that 92 CR a handful of years ago, and that was a great. I'm like kind of mad that I sold it.
Yeah.
I should have just kept it.
Right. That's when we shot with Ricky. It was when we shot with Ricky Johnson, right?
No. That was 86. This was a 92. Remember, it was Mickey Diamond's old practice bike.
Yeah.
We did like sort of a factory Honda look from that.
Yeah.
From the 92 area. Anyway, so now I have this 86 YZ that you've been helping me with, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's been going on for, I think I'm coming up on 2 years.
I would think, yeah.
So I would just, when people ask me, I say, if it's 80 anything, good luck.
Right.
Because we've had issues with airbox, which I still can't find. Yeah. The silencer, I've got it together. We'll see what happens when I ride it. The carb's been a nightmare.
Yep. We just finished that carb, and that took a bunch, to get sorted out, to figure out what to get.
It just seems like 90s right now is kind of the cutoff where you can still find some stuff.
Right.
But you go older than that, and
it's really tough.
You better have somebody that can make stuff, 3D print it, or be willing to spend some cash.
Or you're finding something that's really mint, which there are some. So you got to be really careful what you find.
Yeah. Well, cool, good stuff. So yeah, if you're looking for something on the technical side, check out the Moto Show. Really cool. And also, while you're on the interwebs, go over to whiskeythrottlemedia.com. Look at everything we got going on there. All our social media channels, Instagram, TikTok. Now my daughter's running TikTok, so give us a follow over there. She has a lot of fun with that. And then, our YouTube page. If you guys haven't followed that, a lot of cool stuff. Moto, obviously, but we've got off-road stuff, a dual sport feature coming that is going to be revamped and be really cool. So excited about that. Our guest is brought to you by Yamaha. We love these guys, man. Great bikes, Blue Crew all the way. So excited to have them just be a part of this great company. And always on the cutting edge, First to the 4-stroke thing, first.
They still, even though they're people think they're slow because they don't make as many models, but they have plenty of little niche markets. The little TTRs and stuff fill a really good void for beginners and stuff. So there's some good bikes out there.
Great bikes. And they're still the only one with the backward engine and the, what do they call that? The air induction
from the
setup.
Yeah. Could you get a straight shot from the fuel injector? That's why those bikes make so much power.
Do you know my favorite thing about the Yamaha? And I'm not trying to glaze Yamaha here, but I clean filters maybe half as much.
Half as much.
Because of where it's located.
I mainly clean them when they start to just get too dry. because the filter oil will dry out eventually.
Yeah.
So you ride 2 or 3 times, 4 times, you're like, you better change it, even though it's not that dirty.
That's crazy.
It's drying out. So
that's worth the cost of the bike right there. If you hate
less filters.
If you hate doing air filters like I do.
Well, we're going to shoot that. I'm preparing a 450 YZ450 FX that we're going to do a project with here soon. So we'll be shooting that soon. And I actually rode that bike, and in the detuned map, it was pretty rideable, like on our hill track. So again, they're pretty good at filling voids. I kind of wish they made a 350, but and we'll see what happens. I'm got my fingers crossed. So.
Well, just put a big flywheel on that thing or something. All right, tell me about your story here. Where'd you grow up? Because a lot of this I don't know.
Yeah, and up by Santa Barbara.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, up in that area till I was a little bit older kid, but up in that area, Solvang, San Ynez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Why the heck did you ever move?
Yeah, my mom made some poor choices.
Nice move, Mom. Move me to Sun City.
No. Then we went to Missouri.
Oh, no.
Went to high school there. Then, and nothing against it. There's a lot of things I like about back east there. And for a long time, I thought we'd be going back. Like even when Sarah and I first got married, we talked about we're going to go back there someday. She likes it, back there.
It's beautiful. Oh, you mean Missouri?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Central Coast we can't afford anymore. So
that's Solvang, Santa Barbara is wild.
No. So, but after I came back to California and as a machinist, that's where I got my kind of knowledge of.
Oh, you worked as a machinist. Okay.
Yeah. So
you're speeding way ahead. You just skipped like 18 years.
Well, as a kid.
Tell me about. So, how long were you there before you went to Missouri?
Yeah, so in Southern California, so just rode a little bit as a kid, like real little bit. My uncles both raced, and my uncle Vince was
in Central Cal.
Yeah, he was in
like
Lompoc,
San Luis.
Yeah, Lompoc and Santa Maria. You pass
yeah.
There was a track there, and I remember going there as a kid, and he was national number 44 in 1977.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Vince, and his brother Paul, my other uncle. They got me into riding, and it was fun, but we didn't really have the resources to keep it going.
Yeah. Did you have like a homemade little pitter?
Oh,
little mini bike?
Well, yeah. And then I got a 77 RM80 in like 1980 or so. That was the first real bike I got. And we would go to Indian Dunes 2 or 3 times. I went my whole life before we moved back east. And then when you moved to Missouri, riding in fields was very common, just people's houses. You just ride in people's houses and their farms, would have a track. And then every once in a while, you'd go to a track. Went to a fair race. We'd have a fair race.
You keep grabbing gears. You're like already back in high school.
Yeah.
Slow down. Take me back. What did you do as a kid up there? Were you into before you learned even about bikes? What were you into?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Just like as a kid.
No other sports. No.
Yeah. I played football all through, from kindergarten to high school.
Okay.
All through. Yeah, every year. And
did you have siblings?
One sister.
One sister, okay.
And so we would, and I liked football. I think, I don't know totally what my take on it is later in life, I guess. Because I love football today. I love watching it. But as much as, I don't know what my take is on it. And I didn't push Spencer to play it. We played like flag football, and I coached and stuff like that. But,
yeah.
And so I love football, but that was pretty much it. But then once I got onto dirt bikes, just nothing else seemed to be nearly as cool.
It seems like that happens with a lot of people. Once you get introduced, if it's your jam, nothing else ever really.
No, there's nothing else that compares.
The interesting thing about being from a cold state like Montana is like you can't ride in the winter.
You got to go.
So it forced you to do what the heck are we gonna do? So yeah, we skied, we did other stuff. We played sports. All the indoor sports would be in the winter: basketball, swimming.
Yeah.
I did karate. You got to do something. It's 40 below outside. I had to go inside. Okay, so what was the first bike you got?
That 77 RM80.
RM80.
Yeah, and it was like 3 years old or so, and had that thing for way too long because we couldn't afford to get anything else.
Yeah.
So
you're like gigantic on it.
Yeah, tried to raise it up, do different ways to make it taller or whatever, and
were you mechanically inclined back then?
No, but I was really good at breaking stuff. And that would teach me a lot of how to fix it after I broke it. The first race, I will say the first race, because I didn't do hardly any races growing up, but I did go to Indian Dunes, and there was a little tiny track. I don't know what they called it, but it was up on, and the guys that are familiar with it would know. But I remember going around this track, and everybody was giving me like thumbs up. Everybody's like,
"Oh no, I can see where this is going."
They're all cheering for me.
Look at them. They're all like telling me,
go. They're going like this, and they're giving thumbs. And I'm like, this is cool. So the race is over, And I think I left that thing in second the whole race.
Shift up.
I didn't know you're supposed to shift. No one told me apparently. So it was just
that poor bike.
Yeah, just pinned it. And I remember being at the line on a couple of those races, and it's like, you asking the guy next to you, what race is this? How many times have you raced? And it's like, 58. And you're like all scared.
Yeah.
So terrified.
So were you at that point? Were you following like pro racing or
not till I got older, till I got back when I was like junior high school age. Then I started getting magazines, and I was like, man, I would follow it. And then we went to a couple supercrosses. Like right before we moved, I went to the Coliseum.
Okay.
And like in 1982, they had the last Super Bowl of motocross. I think it was somewhere in there, and they called and it was because the Olympics were coming or something, so they weren't going to be able to be back there or something. And of course, since we have, right?
Yeah.
But the track went around kind of the outside. It didn't go on the infield of the football.
Oh, that's right. It went like around the track.
Yeah. It was way out here. And then it went up the peristyle. But when it came down, it's like they didn't want to mess up the field. So the track went around. It was really cool.
Terrible.
Yeah. But it was cool to go see. And as a kid, you didn't care what was going on. It just looked so cool to see it. I have no idea who even won or anything. Yeah. But I just remember it was really cool. And then saw a couple races back in Missouri.
Okay. Was Doug DeMocus part of the show?
Yes, I do remember that because it was all the way around, the whole.
I used to be so enamored with him as a kid. The Wheelie King, I'm sure a lot of people know who that is. But and then until I found out he had like a mechanism that spun the front wheel.
A gyro.
And I'm like, oh, you cheater.
So he cheated. He
could still wheelie.
He was a good wheelier even without it. But the only way to do it that long is you need that gyro effect to keep it moving.
Yeah. And steer. That way he could turn and actually make a corner.
Right.
Because that was so crazy about what he'd do. He just
around the whole track.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that today, I don't think.
So you only a couple of races, and then you moved to Missouri.
Yeah.
And what happens back there?
My parents get split up.
Where in Missouri?
Yeah, Springfield area. And they get split up after being out there like a year or two, and it's like, so then there's even less money to do anything, right? So now there's very little money. So now it's just like, hey, you got cars and high school and stuff like that. So eventually got to where I could work and buy my own bike, and bought like an 86 KX 125 that was like a year or two old, and X Racers. So it lasted like 4, 5, 6 months before it blew up, right? And cylinders ruined and all that. So you start learning all that stuff. You got to fix these things, which kind of sucks. So fixing these things, back then, when because parts were expensive. I mean, so when you're spending, if you blew up a top end, it was $300 to fix it. It was a lot. When you're making, $3 an hour or whatever it was.
Yeah, goes quick.
So anyway, so through high school wasn't a whole lot. We may race 2 or 3 times, But at our Springfield, they had this fair race. And they would send this guy down, Jeff Emig, would come down to the fair race.
That's right. He's a Missouri boy.
He would come down there just to whoop up on everybody. And they had a wood catapult jump on the speedway would have this. And it would just be like this wood jump that was like, 8 or 10 feet wide.
What year?
So
like
that would be like 83, 84.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And you would just go down the straight and just hit this wood jump and just launch to a flat, And so the pros would just launch really far, And it's for like a beginner kid, you're just like scared to go off of it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So terrifying.
Was Emig on a 60?
No, he'd be on an 85. He's actually not that much younger than me. He was on it. He was like young on an 85, 80.
Yeah, 80. Yeah.
80. Yeah, KX 80, if I remember right. Around that. I'll have to do some math on when that was. But
yeah, well, like 86, 87, he was moving up, like somewhere in there.
To a 125?
125. So
yeah. Could have been 84, 85.
Yeah,
somewhere there.
I'd have to ask him. I don't know exactly, but that's funny.
He remembered the jump, though. I did talk. He doesn't remember me, obviously. But when we've talked since then, he talked about the wood jump, and he remembered those. I think there was a couple places that would do that.
Yeah.
Back there.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so what next? You graduate high school.
And then I say, hey, let's get back to California.
Okay, so, just solo by yourself?
Yeah. So I just moved out, and I decided I want to get back. And as a machinist,
did your folks stay back there?
Yeah. Well, they both were back there at that. And I think my stepdad had moved out here to California, but it was pretty much on my own. Yeah. And so
what'd you do?
Machinist. Just get in there and get a job and get to work,
So you weren't trained on as being a machinist. You just got a job and said,
well, no, through my last 2 years of high school, I went to a vocational school and learned a lot of a good machining ability. And so getting out to California, the wages are pretty good compared to Missouri. I mean, it was like, for back in, 87 through 90 in that range, you're making $15 to $17 an hour, which, back then was decent money.
Great money.
Yeah. So it was decent money.
I feel like, it's topical because the Department of Education just got kind of disbanded. And I'm all for it personally. I think you're stealing money from the schools by having all this bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But like when schools used to have auto shop, wood shop, all of these trades that you could go and learn as an elective or something, man, you were training the workforce before they even got out of school. Like why did we go away from that?
There's zero trade school, really, especially out west here.
And maybe it would change, right? Like now maybe you'd have graphic design or computer programming or, coding. I don't know.
But people need to learn plumbing and electrical.
Totally.
And
totally.
rather than only in the job force can they go learn it now. So you have to have an uncle or somebody that's willing to take you in.
An apprentice.
And teach you as you go. So we're talking about it earlier today, how trades are going to be they're going to be the future millionaire guys.
Totally.
That can, 10 years from now, no one's going to be able to, tow truck guys are going to be able to charge whatever they want because no one is willing to go work and do it, right? So same thing with electricians and plumbers.
And even guys that are pretty handy, like if you could pull apart a carbureted truck engine, well, I don't know if you looked at a motor recently in a truck, it's like, I need to have a job at Tesla to even figure out how to get into this thing. It's all computers. So
all diagnostics. So
you're going to have to call AAA and that mechanic's going to come out and rake you over the coals.
Yeah, so luckily I had some experience there, and I was willing to work hard and go try to find jobs, and then got into the aerospace part of it up by Ventura in that area. A lot of aerospace jobs.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, where'd you go?
Yeah, up into that area, Ventura. Okay. Yeah, and so there was a lot of good aerospace jobs in that area. Did some of that, and then the aerospace started to take a little bit of a tank. They started right in there. Started
90-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Started, cutting back a lot. And if you're young, you're the ones that are getting laid off first, So
what did you learn in that, first little bit though?
Yeah, a lot of good, so it gave me a good technical background because, you learn how to measure things. You learn clearances and tolerances and things like that. So that's what really helped
Even just the tools of the trade, right? Like,
right.
What,
Because I could run a mill and a lathe and a surface grinder, all types of good machines I could run. And I was proficient at them enough as a young one to be able to do it. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to do a whole lot of that since, but it taught me a lot of that. And it helped me understand as I got into this industry. It helped me understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So
that's important, that foundation. I relate in this way, like, when you become a paramedic, you have to start as an EMT.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, go work for at least a year as an EMT because you work with a medic and watch them and learn what they do. And I got my EMT license, ran 3 calls as an EMT, and then went to medic school. It was the timing of it all. Yeah. And I was managing a race team at the time. So it was like, I couldn't do what I should have done.
Right.
So I go into medic school and they're going, oh, here's an op site. Like they're talking about different tools. And I'm like, what's that? I didn't even know what things were. So the learning curve for me was super steep, and it made it hard on me.
And the same thing as a machinist. Yeah. There's the same thing. There's so much terminology. And I kept, when I stopped, I still have machinist toolbox and all these different specialty tools that I've barely used over the last 30 plus years.
You have a radical set of tools.
And you haven't seen the machinist tools. Those are just the mechanic tools.
Is it all back in the back shop?
Yeah. So the machinist stuff is not out there because we don't need it out there.
I even asked you today, like, how do you have so much Snap-on? Like, you have so many tools, dude. If you guys wouldn't believe this tool collection Jay has, it's like, I wonder how many 10 millimeter open end wrenches you have.
We keep
100?
Well, no, there's 4 or 5 in there. In that drawer.
You can tell you've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
This stuff kind of collects up. Okay, so you get laid off from there. Then what's next?
So in that time frame, so around 9.
Are you riding at all?
Yeah, and this is where I start to make a little bit of inroads. I meet a good guy. So the first guy I meet is Hoyt Vandenberg. This guy who worked at a quad magazine. He worked for Dirt Wheels, High Torque. So he worked there and had me went out and did a couple photo shoots. because you can ride a quad, you can ride a dirt bike, you can ride a quad, right? So did a couple photo shoots and did a little bit of stuff there that got my feet wet, kind of knowing a little bit about the industry, right? So I learned a little bit there, and then as things kind of progressed, in there, I met my wife. She's from Tehachapi, Bakersfield area. So, and she did with our church group, had come down to that area for a weekend, and met her there. And then we got married like 2 years later, and her family had moved down to Murrieta.
Okay.
And that's what brought us down here. So, but during that time, up in Santa Paula, Ventura, there's a Wiseco warehouse. They had a warehouse because back then, UPSing stuff Wiseco was in Ohio. So they just had a husband and wife running a warehouse in Santa Paula. And so I made friends with them, and then I started thinking, I'm like, because I was still bouncing around from different machine shops, right? And each job was getting progressively worse. I'm like, oh man, this is like,
I'm going the wrong direction.
This is like the pro guys that have factory ride down
B level.
Then they're in the pickup truck the last year, whatever. So that's what it was feeling like. I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I got to think of something else. And so so down here in Murrieta, I still got a job, and I never had a problem finding a job. I would drive around. I'd tell, you would just print off resumes at Kinko's, right? Mm-hmm. And I would drive around industrial parks and just go hand out resumes. And usually within, a few days, you had calls and you had to interview and you got a job. It wasn't hard, right? And then we got married, and we went on honeymoon, which we didn't have any money to do, but went on honeymoon. Come home, and then got laid off that day. And then for some reason,
welcome back. Yeah. Welcome to marriage, kid. You don't have a job,
right? I'm like, oh man. And then for I don't know, almost a year, like 9 or 10 months, it took. I couldn't find anything decent, little part-time stuff.
What year was this again?
So 92.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were we in kind of just a slow? Okay.
Yeah. And so, couldn't find much. And then that's when I decided. I talked to the guy at Wiseco up in Santa Paula, and I go, hey, I need to talk to the Wiseco back in Ohio. And so I started calling him, and I would. I think I faxed him, you type up a thing. And so I tried to convince them that they needed someone out west. And so there was no job posting for what I helped create back in. So I started with them in 93. So I just kept hounding him. And there's a guy named Bob Gorman who owns Cometic Gasket and Klotz. He owns a few companies. He was the guy at Wiseco that I would call and hound all the time. And I just kept bugging him, like almost once a week for,
And what were you pitching to him? Like, hey, what could you do for him?
You need a representative out here in California who can visit with the magazines, who can help with race teams, go to races, and promote the company, that kind of thing. So that's what I was promoting is, hey, you guys are back there in Ohio. There's tons of these West Coast companies getting all the coverage, right? So that's what I pitched to him. And that was true. Wiseco was a good company who was kind of looked at as an East Coast only company. And this is before the internet was a thing, right? So there was the world was much, bigger.
It was very Tupac and Biggie. You were either East or West Coast.
Right, right. So they didn't get this coverage. So then just by chance, he calls me one day and says, hey, the owner's in Palm Springs. Can you go visit him and see what he thinks?
That was Gorman?
Yeah. So he tells me that. And then I go meet the actual owners, Bob and Joanne Anderson. And there was a little family that owned it. Wiseco was founded by this, Wiseman was his last name, and he had 3 daughters. And then the daughters married, and then they were all these, 6 people were kind of, these families were, ran Wiseco. And so I met one of them, so I met the husband and wife. I drove out to Palm Springs. I threw on a suit, just so anybody knows. I threw on a suit in the middle of summer. And,
in Palm Springs.
And drove out in my Toyota, which had no air then. I did add air later, but had no air.
Not the one you have.
Yeah, I still have that. I bought that in 1987, that Toyota truck.
Oh, my gosh.
So I still have that. I bought it brand new in 1987, so I don't, get rid of things too much. And it's the same thing with that white truck. My Ford is an 01. So I get out there and I drive to Palm Springs, and I meet them and have a great visit. And they go, hey, they liked that I had a bit of a technical background and that I was had the gift of gab, to so to speak, to pitch them on this. And I wasn't even so when I flew out, then they tell me, hey, they give me a phone number, call this guy, he's going to have you fly out to Ohio. They set it all up, and they go, and I couldn't rent a car because I wasn't old enough to rent a car.
Were you going to be 25?
Yeah, and I was like 23 or something, So they picked me up at the airport and bring me in, show me around, and that's how it started. It was really great, and so I worked for them as a long time. That's when I met you, and that's when things really went on the upswing for Weisco. Like we went to the races, went to Mammoth, into all the races in Southern California, the West Coast. Jet ski races were big. We'd go to.
I was going to say, what was Weisco's bread and butter? Wasn't just dirt bike stuff?
Yeah, but two-stroke pistons. Yeah, just two-stroke as a whole, just the whole.
Okay.
But dirt bikes were big, and then ATVs, Banshees and stuff that just burned up tons of pistons.
Yeah.
So it was big back then, and there wasn't a lot of competition. So they did really well, and they were set up. The company was run really well and had good. They had this warehouse in Texas and the one here in Santa Paula, and then the one they were all made in Ohio. So, and just a really good people that ran it, good family. This Anderson's, they're still around today, and they're really good people. But they end up selling the company around, 02, 03.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, so somewhere in there, they end up selling it, and to the big companies. And that's been one of my hiccups throughout the years, is these big companies that are coming in and buying everything in our sport, as you know. And there's good and bad to it. It works out well for the people that sell it. Usually not too well for the people that are left.
Yeah, it's crazy that I guess what's crazy to me is that these companies keep buying them, because the trend, you could, if you knew anything about what happens in our industry, as soon as they get bought, it's just it's a southward trend until it grenades. I mean, without a lot of exceptions, huh?
I can't think of hardly any that have been more successful. It's very tough. So it's a really tough thing. I think when you lose the enthusiast owner, because the owners of the companies, like, say,
they're the ones with the passion.
Yeah, think about Big Donnie at FMF or Mitch at Pro Circuit, right? If somebody bought those, could they make them any better? I would have a hard time thinking they could make them better.
Well, this is why when Troy sold, I was like, and the companies that bought them were good companies,
right?
But you just get nervous because you go, these guys don't know they don't know this is a brand, right? Like, it's a living thing,
right? And
if you don't, know about it, you're cooked. And so when he bought it back, I was just like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. And which is cool to see, because a company like White Brothers went completely away. It was a huge company, and over just a few years of period, it went completely away. Yeah. So they end up selling, but those years at Weisco were just great. I traveled a ton, went to all the races. I went to Europe, I went to Donations in Brazil, and we went to a lot of cool things, a lot of races. And then after a while, because that's why I could ride during the week with you guys, because I was going to races almost every weekend. So I was going to the races, 40 weekends a year. Yeah,
you've managed to, outside of that machine shop days, like, really not have a regular grind desk job or 9 to 5.
Not a real job.
When are you going to grow up, Jay?
No. So I've been real blessed to be able to do that, but I always felt like I had to overachieve every day, that's why I would try, like, at the races, if I would think about it, and I go, so what's going on here? I'd be looking at the track, and I go, we sponsor this race, so it's Loretta Lynn's or the Nationals, right? I go, we're going to work out a deal. We're going to sponsor Hangtown or whatever it is. And I go, so who's putting up the banners? No, our guy's going to do it. And he wouldn't do it. So then I realized I can just go put up the banners myself, right? They're like, yeah, no problem. So that lasted a good, 7-8 years. I would go out and I'd put up banners. Well, eventually, before there was a national promoters group, somebody started realizing Weisco's getting way more coverage than Chevy Trucks or whoever it is, right? The title sponsor. So, people would get mad at me or other companies, but I would look at it and go,
I'm busting my butt out here with the stapler.
Like, I'm the one here most of these national tracks, I would get there on Saturday or Sunday morning. I would get there at 4:35, in the morning. I would get there and just go around, and by myself, I would just have a staple gun, zip ties, and just go around the track, banner it up. And then I would go talk to all the privateer racers that we could help out with pistons and stuff. So that was a big part of what I did, was going to these races and doing that.
Were you wrapping the banners up at the end of the day or leaving them?
No, we just left them. That was too much. So, and they had, banners were cheap, comparatively speaking. And if people took them home, that's great advertising.
More marketing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a big part of what I did.
You've been a hustler, dude. I'll tell you, and it's interesting for me to have guys on this show. I mean, racers, obviously, they got to work harder. They're not sitting here.
Yeah.
But the industry people, the one thing they have in common is they go. like they're workers,
Yeah,
because
you
won't make it in this industry cruising.
No. And that's what I learned. So when I was young, that's what I realized was it's going to take every year, especially with Wiseco being so far removed. I was really worried that they could just change their mind and go, we don't know how well that's working or whatever. So I wanted to make sure when I would send them a cover from a magazine that we got, or say there was a picture inside with a huge banner and there was from a race or whatever, they were real happy. I mean, they would be genuinely pleased with that, and they could feel like it did impact the business. So it was a big thing, and it was cool. It did ruffle some feathers with other industry guys, like
I'm sure,
who didn't want to work as hard,
Yeah.
Hey,
how come he gets to do that? Well, you could do it. Well, I don't want to do it.
Right. Yeah, I got some funny stories there. Like there was a certain goggle guy, a big one.
Okay.
Big goggle guy. And he pulled me aside at one of the races and told me that I needed to back off. And I was like, whatever, okay. And I didn't really know his history, I didn't put proper respect into who he was or whatever, apparently. But anyway, he then pulls me aside the next week. Hey, you're not listening. Like I said, you can't put up that many banners. I'm like, well, you're not the track guy. You're not the promoter. You don't own the track, right? So I just kept doing it. And he got really pissed. And he goes, I'm going to put an end to your career. Like he would just tell me that you're not going to work in this industry any longer. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
Yeah. So I would have some of those types of things, and so then I would call back to Wiseco, hey, this guy's, don't worry about it. You're doing a good job. And I'm like,
you're doing great. Keep doing that.
I'm like, all right, well, good. So you don't care, then it's good. And so I do kind of credit, in some ways, I kind of help create some awareness of the promoters, and now we have a legit outdoor series who really watches because I would just simply I would walk the track and I'd see, there's a stand here where they're going to film from. I'm like, okay, I'd look and I go, okay,
it's going to come right through here.
I'll put a banner there and there and there. And that's what I would look at it. And now they've all done that. And so I think I kind of helped raise some good awareness to that and help the sport progress. So I look at it like I helped out.
For sure. That's awesome.
Bring a bunch of money into it when they could bring in Monster or something. Before that, they probably never could have.
I wonder what the dollar value would be that you got for Wiseco in the current.
It'd be millions and millions, yeah. Yeah, we would. A lot of those tracks, I would take 40 to 50 banners, for a national.
Jeez.
Yeah. And go around.
Okay, as we're kind of getting into your next phase here, and so I'm going to start with our seat concepts hot seat question. Mm-hmm. If you guys need a seat cover, a whole complete seat, Seat Concepts has you covered. No pun intended. They've got wet weather seats, snowmobile seats, quad seats, and that is our question. Mm-hmm. You were a big quad guy for a while.
Yeah, a little bit.
I see pictures, magazine covers of you on a quad, and so my question is, why are you gay? No, tell me about this quad thing. How did it come to be?
Well, just because when I got out there to that area and I met the guy at the magazine, it kind of got that rolling. So it kind of.
Who was it? MX? Who was it?
Dirt Wheels, which is part of High Torque.
Yeah, okay.
So I was able to get a loaner one to use. So that helped the thing. And then it was like, okay, this is. It's easier to be a better quad rider than a bike rider right away. So that was like, okay, this is so.
They're not easy to ride. I crap on quads just as a
they're
joke, but
not.
But
it's easier to be better at it, I guess, quicker if you're not, because it's riding a bike is their competition, I guess, is much deeper and tougher.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I did that just for a few years, and then sold everything, and I realized that I like women.
I'm a straight man.
And so then I think I bought a 91 RM250 was the first bike, brand new, nice, current year 91. Bike that I bought.
Okay.
Was a 91 RM250. And it was a good bike.
Yeah.
I had it for a few years. And then once I was in the industry, then I could buy like a year-old bike every year, And
so when did you, outside of Wiseco, when did things evolve from that? Like when did you start doing magazine bikes? When did you start?
At Wiseco. So around the late 90s, I would go with Motocross Action or Dirt Rider and go, hey, let's test a piston in the CR250, And they test it and go, yeah, it's a little bit better, And so that was the first goal, was just to get some magazine coverage, because back then an article in a magazine was huge because there was nothing else. So if you could get a nice review in a magazine, it would help a ton. So I would go physically change the piston, meet them. I would do it at the track, meet the guys there and do it at the track. They would let it cool down a minute and then send them back out an hour later, So it was it was a hustle.
I was going to say, there's a little bit of irony in you bringing in magazines and CDs together, because they're kind of the same thing. No one reads them or listens to them anymore. But anyway, okay. So from that, you're like, okay, how did it evolve to the next step? They just didn't want to do the work, so you're like, well, give me the bike and I'll build something.
So we can start modifying it a little bit and let's do fresh tires and some stickers at the same time, make it look nice at the same time. And this was before there was graphics, per se. There wasn't really graphics, like now we.
Some people don't even. I forget how old we are.
Yeah.
I mean, look at even media, right? It went from Cycle News.
Yeah.
And watching Moto World.
Yes.
30-minute show was it once a week or once a month?
Yeah.
It wasn't very often.
Right.
And I would just be glued to the TV for that.
Oh, I would set it to record at the midnight or whatever it was on.
Oh, you were high tech. You were recording it.
Recording it on a DVD, and then it was really hard to.
And not on a DVD.
This was on a VCR.
VHS.
Yeah, VHS tape. So I'd set it to record and then watch the replay from the race. I remember watching Bradshaw and Stanton at the. I was there. I went there to the race, but then watching the recaps and the story afterwards. And
like a month later?
Yeah, it had to be a week or two. Yeah, and seeing Lunas throw the toolbox and all that, all those things,
So it went from that to magazines.
Yeah, and so
to websites.
Yeah.
Now to just social media and whatever it is now. But
and so now it's you kind of got to do everything, and even companies like Racer X and Motocross Action, they still have to have the print thing works. Because there is a large, older demographic we have, I joke around. I mean, it's not much of a joke, but our audience is kind of dying off every year.
These numbers for subscriptions are just, it's a steady downward trend. It won't be long.
But it's just like a lot of our industry is, and that's why we got to get young people into it. And you and I have talked about different ideas for that. How do you do this? But because if a dad or an uncle or a grandpa is not buying a kid a bike to get into it, he's not going to get into it.
Well, I've had this conversation with Langston a lot. COVID was like an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because so many kids bought bikes or parents bought them for them. And I think there's still opportunity with like the electric thing, because people are buying Surons and they're buying their kids.
Yeah.
Right. Similar products. But Grant goes, dude, he was very concerned about it, because I'll have a mom come in. They want to buy a 110, let's say, or whatever. Or they'll say, hey, I want to buy a 250 for my kid.
Right.
And he's like, no. Your kid needs like, a 110 or a 150 four-stroke, but he was out of whatever they were after. So she goes, oh, well, I'll buy the 65. And he's like, and of course the salesman's not going to say no. So he sells it to her, and GL's kind of watching this happen. I think he's in his office or something. And she's just grabbing it and get ready to roll out. And he comes out and he goes, hey, just want to make sure you have like a ratio ride and the oil and everything you need for this. And she goes, oil? I mean,
no clue. Yeah.
Mom had no idea, right? So she was just going to put gas in it. And he goes, dude, she's going to take this home, blow it up, and they're done.
They're done, yeah.
They're not coming back. He goes, so we're doing our best to like educate people, but it's like, I don't think everyone's doing that. And we're going to miss an opportunity here to sort of have the next generation come in.
Because it's those, dads, uncles, grandpas they're the ones that are going to help, train the next generation of riders. And that's what's hard to do, So it's, there's very few people that can just go pick it up on their own, like skating or surfing or something, right? Where you can just go down to the skate park.
I will say, I think if you go to depending on where you live, but if you go to a track and you're just in the pits and you don't know your butt from a hole in the ground, but you park next to somebody, if you ask them, I think our community is pretty cool, where they'll help you.
Very much so. Actually,
because if you go surfing,
no,
it's not really like
no.
that.
And I actually got a comment that I was going to write the guy back on. I got a comment the other day. Was this kid writes, and he's like, I wish I could ride with people. I only ride by myself. I got a YZ250F. It was like all sad, right? But when I moved out here to California, I would show up at the track, and I was by myself. And you just go in this community, like you can just talk to whoever you park next to.
Yeah.
And they're all going to help you out.
Yeah.
And you can usually make a friend and find someone to ride with pretty easy. If you can't in this industry, I don't know where else you can. I mean, because in this sport, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Most people are looking for someone to go ride with. They need to. If pros are willing to go ride with a slow guy during the week, they want someone to ride with.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to think of let's say you were a crappy basketball player and you went down to the park and they're playing pickup. They're probably not bringing you in and hey, come shoot with us. Like, beat it, kid.
Yeah.
We've already got our 5, right?
Yeah.
So I do like that about our sport.
Right.
If you're just cool, just a nice person, most people will bring you in and help you.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of start with stickers. So this is where I was going with this. I think there's a lot of kids that just think graphics were always a thing.
Right. It was
And
hard work.
As a kid, I mean, I would sit in my garage for hours and go, oh, no, that one there. No, put this one here. Put them in this order.
And
what
about the rear fender?
Yeah.
The rear fender, you'd have to have them. They
Equal
were really
spacing.
equal spacing. It was nice.
This one's shaped like this, so it's better for the end of the fender, but this one's like a block, so I'll put it up top. Oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And then when Suzuki had the little zebra stripes in pink down the side, then you had to cut it around those.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a whole thing.
That was that 91 RM250.
Yeah.
We had some
Well, I think that
leopard print.
was it. It was 91, 91, 92.
91, 92, and it was a little different in 92, but they had this, and it would blow right into the seat and stuff.
Those were terrible. That Suzuki designer, I want to meet that guy.
But I think it worked for them because they sold at the time. They were popular. It matched everybody's hair and frosted tips. And
Yeah. Hey, don't make fun of frosted tips. Yeah, so I kind of have you as the first guy I know that was really doing these kind of builds. So, and even today, it's like for us to do a project bike, at Whiskey Throttle Media, we get media bikes, but it's like, man, it's a lot of work. I've got 12 bikes, and especially now you've got Triumph coming in, Beta, Ducati, KTM gas. Holy moly.
Yeah.
It's too many. I can't do them all. So you'll take it, get it done, and it shows up. We just meet you at the track ready to go.
And nowadays it's a lot nicer than it was a long time ago because the bikes are so good stock. You don't need to do a ton of stuff to make them a little bit better and look cool. So, some gearing, mapping.
Yeah, but it's not always just lipstick on the pig. I mean, each bike has their own quirks.
Right.
And so there's something to knowing like, hey, this fork stinks. So let's fix that. And here's how we did it. Yeah. And we'll also make it look nice and bolt a few things on. Right. But you're also fixing problems.
Oh, and that's, the new 25 Honda has been tough. I actually went out to the hills to our place. I went Monday on a dry day. So, just yesterday I went out and dry day. And I brought 2 CRs with 2 different sets of suspension, from the same company, but 2 different things. And I back to back. And it was fun, trying to figure it out, try to, get it better.
Yeah.
I've been struggling with a setup there and pretty happy with it.
So you turned that over time into like a viable business model for you. Like you were doing it for the magazines to help Weisco at first, but then it sort of became, you built a business out of doing that.
Yeah. So right when I left, so Weisco, when they sold, that's when I was kind of doing pretty good with all that. And at that time I had backed off. It came apparent that I really didn't want to keep going to the races every weekend. I really got, I don't want to say burnt out, but I'd much rather be with my family, much more. So
what year is this?
I would say by, 01 to 03 in that range, I'm like, because my kids are little, they're 96, 98, and 01. My kids were all born, those 3, all in those years. So by 01, 02, I'm like, I just want to stay home. So then I talked to Weisco right before they, selling, and it's like, hey, I can do more of this, staying out west, and we can have some other people go to races and stuff. And that really helped a ton as far as rejuvenating what I do, and realizing I could, because I was going to the races so much, I wasn't spending as much time with the media stuff or race teams and stuff. Weisco did really well in the 90s with Team Kawasaki and Team Yamaha with factory pistons. That was a big thing too, is that you had a person out west here that could go visit Yamaha and visit, even though I didn't make the pistons, I could go visit them. They'd say what they wanted to do. We'd send it back to Weisco and they could come back. So it was really cool.
It's always better to have someone to talk face to face to.
Yeah. So then I ended up leaving Weisco around 03, 04. And And it was because they brought in these new people. I had no problem. I love the company. It was great. But these new people didn't see things well. And there was a bit of a divide with the company that they were distributing hot rods, who made these rods. And the guy, Kurt Leverton, was the owner of Hot Rods, and he was in Iowa. And so he had Pivot Works and Hot Cams. And then he had these other companies. He goes, we're going to make these other companies and stuff. And I go, you sure you can, want to do this and are committed and afford it? And it was a great move because I moved over there, and the people that were running Weisco at the time, it wasn't a great fit. Like I talked about, these people came in there and didn't really understand the industry. Lots of MBAs, that kind of thing, not really valuing the experience. And then that's when Bob Gorman left, who just went right back. He went to Comedic, where he was running that as a side business and just put his full effort into that. So at that time, then it was like, I went to this other company, C&L is what they called it, with the other brands, and worked for them. And that's when I really did a lot of project builds, because I wasn't going to races hardly at all, just staying in Southern California. And for the next, 15 plus years, worked with them. And then they sold to, I call it Big Evil Company. So they sold to Big Evil Company, who was actually worse than the other one. Get in a boss. I'm not going to say,
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble.
But it was terrible, absolutely terrible. So, and I could see it, coming. And so then I just go, and what's funny is then the people at Weisco, they got new people in there, like Kevin. They got other people, Kevin and Scott, people who are enthusiasts. And so they've been sold again and during that time. And it's still owned by a big company, but now there's people there that get it and understand the sport. So at least they have people in place who are enthusiasts, where before a lot of these companies, they get rid of those. So then I'll go back with them. And during this whole time, that's when I got on around 04, 05, I got on with Dunlop to go, hey, I'll do Dunlop's media stuff, and help out with the media coverage. I don't really do races. I'll help out a tiny bit over the years, but for the most part, they have a full crew that does a great job at all the races. So I would just do, I could help with this media stuff, and help out with
You pitched this to him?
Yeah, with Brock, back like in 03, 04, 05.
It's brilliant, to be honest with you, because if you weren't there, and listen, I think everyone at this point understands Dunlop's the gold standard for tires.
Right.
I mean, it just is. They're the only company that's never left the sport. They continued development even through the hard times. 08, it turned into a ghost town.
Right.
All these other companies that were hot and heavy and we're supporting Pro Moto were like poof.
And all my companies stuck with me all through 08 to 10, 11, when things were thin.
Yeah.
Most of them that understand the industry, like FMF and Works Connection and these brands that I work with, they all understand you got to keep the gas on, because Kurt would always tell me at Leverton, he would always tell me, people still want to recreate no matter what it is. So if the economy's bad, even more so, they still need that release. And they want to go, whether it's fishing or skiing or whatever their passion is, right? And for those guys that ride dirt bikes, they still need to get their fix. And so they want to keep riding. So in some ways, even if new bike sales are down, maybe you're selling more pistons and rods for guys rebuilding bikes. So you can look at it like, hey, there's a benefit. Because when the economy's awesome, everybody's making tons of money, they're buying more new bikes. They're not needing as many rods and clutches, right? So sometimes an economy that's for replacement parts is kind of good that way. Now, for a company like Dunlop, they want people racing and wearing out tires. So there's a bit of it's all over the place.
Yeah, it is. I just think man, that was a great move on your part, their part, because it's like now as a media outlet, you go, well, I could get this other set of tires. They'll send them to me.
Yeah.
And then I got to mount them myself. Or I could just drive over to Jay's and he puts the Dunlops on, which are at least as good, if not, probably better. It's a no-brainer.
Well, and half the time we meet them at the
track,
or at their house. We go. So there's all kinds of things we've been able to do over the years that really help.
Do you think I got to believe all industries are this way. I'm kind of stepping back on what you were just talking about, where industry expertise and understanding and knowledge trumps education in the sport.
Oh, for sure.
Like you said, all these really highly educated college idiots come in with a bunch of letters after their name. Well, we can buy this company and we'll do this and this. And then, like I said, we just watch it
One of the prime examples, I don't need to say names, but I remember when Weisco was bought, one of the first things, I wasn't at the meeting, but there was a big meeting with all the managers in this room, right? They're all sitting around a table. And the new big boss, he went around and he wanted everybody to introduce themselves and tell them their education. Because he started off first with my MBA. This and that. He already knew everybody's education from HR, right? Like he didn't need to do this. He just publicly shamed everybody in this room to show that he was, yeah. So that set the tone. And I remember hearing this story from some, people at this meeting, and they were all made to feel like this. So this guy had no clue how to raise people up and the value, what they brought. Because some of these people that end up leaving had been there since 17 years old, and now they're in their 40s and 50s. They've been there that long. And what do they possess, right? So when those people left, it was really a tough time. Weisco, it took a long time to build that back up after they lost all those key people. So that's what those MBA kind of guys, that's what they do to this. They don't see it like an enthusiast,
They're educated morons, a lot of them, truly. I will take work ethic and experience in the field over degrees all day long and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, so
I see it even in the fire service,
right?
Because it used to be very blue collar and bloody knuckle, dirty, get work done, and now it's turning. It's going more towards like, well, what how many degrees do you? It's kind of going like that, right? And at least at the management level, and you see how that trickles down,
right?
It's weird, man. And so I'm sure that's the only other place I can relate to it, but I see it for sure in moto.
Yeah.
And then I see it there too, so I'm like, it's got to be that way at other places, industries.
And it's a tough thing. I wish I could have gone to college at times because I think it would have been helpful for me in some ways, but it just never was in the cards. And but
what would you have done?
I don't know.
What do you think it would have improved in your life?
Yeah, I probably would have been an accountant. But
if you have something you want to go do, like Donnie's, we were talking about Donnie earlier, and his kid wants to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
You have a goal. Yeah.
If you want to be a nurse, okay, awesome. Here's the path to get there, and there is an education process. But to just go, I'm going to go to college, I'll figure it out. It's like, waste of money, and probably coming out with blue hair and lighting Teslas on fire. Anyway, that might be getting a little borderline political. Anyway, moving on. So I was talking about how you've kind of turned this into a business, like a viable business model now, because you have your partners that all kind of pay you for the content you're getting, the clicks, the likes, the views, how did that evolve, man? Like, because
most of the companies, this is what's interesting, and most of them I've dealt with since before there was social media, with FMF and Dunlop and now Weisco, for instance. But most of these companies have long-term relationships to where they just what I did with the magazines was sufficient, and what I provided at the track and those types of things. So that's nice that they're not just looking at the social media thing and the YouTube stuff for us has just been an added thing and I was somewhat reluctant, especially on the social side initially, because I'm like, who knows how long this is going to last, right? Like when you're this 40-something, because I was probably 40-something, mid-40s or whatever, and I'm like, well, is this really a thing?
going to become a YouTuber?
Yeah. and then when Instagram and stuff's going on, you're like, hey, is this really going to be a thing, And even today, I would say there's in the moto industry, because I get guys email me in the tire stands and tech questions, and I would say 20%, 30% don't have social. It's kind of interesting.
Was that right?
Yeah, like especially the older guys,
I'm always surprised by that too. You think that it's everyone has it, but you're right. I get people go, "Oh, Whiskey Throttle Show. I've never heard of it," and you're like,
"Right,
really?" Or okay. I mean, I'm not saying this is like everyone. It's a household thing, but it's just like you think if you're a fan of the sport,
right?
You'd kind of. But seek it out in the forms that it's out there.
And our views can get very distorted out here, especially out in California, right? Like everything we see and in it. But there's a lot of people that aren't into it. But for me, yes, it's been a real help having a strong social presence. And I think we found a good niche because we're not cool. We're not like Buttery. We're not appealing to young people in that way. But we figured out right away that people wanted to see little tech content. How to adjust your chain and
found your lane.
Yeah. So, and it obviously started tire changes were a big thing. So I'm like, why don't we film a tire change? Everybody likes to, see this. So, and some of the first, when we first started doing it, especially, there would be a lot in YouTube. There'd be these comments like, it's a fake tire. It's a stunt tire. Like,
really?
Like, guys are commenting like they don't think I'm using a real tire. Like, it's too easy. So, like that, those are
like
some
it's
of
a Hollywood prop,
right? That it's too easy of a tire. So, and Dunlops have some of the best, strength sidewalls out there. So that's not the case. So
yeah. Sometimes I do watch you, and as you're cranking it, I'll hear the sounds like little threads tearing. I'm like, oh, but I mean, I've never had an issue.
That's just the muscles in my arm.
That's just tendons.
Yeah, popping.
Okay, so we kind of figured out where you got all of your technical proficiency.
Yeah.
So take me through, like, you went from just sort of a few parts here to now complete bike builds.
Yeah. So, and these older builds that we do are pretty fun. I should show you one, man. Let's see if we can find a cool one. Yeah, this kind of stuff right here. You shot one of these bikes. So this is a 96 CR 250 with a kind of a McGrath theme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we did one of these we did a 101 version with you guys. So these kind of bikes, for some reason, I don't know how, it just lined up a few years ago. It was kind of during COVID. It started stockpiling CR 250s, 95, 96s. One guy gave me one, and I found another one for $200. And before you knew it, I had three kind of ready to go. So I started three of these. And then during that time, I was like kind of 40, 50% done with the three. I got two more. Bought one for $800, and one was kind of a $200 or $300 deal. So then I kind of got them all to where they all finished at the same time.
Yeah, that was a push. I remember seeing them. I'd come over, and they're, the frames were all powder coated. And then the next time, the engines are back, and they're all, I'm like, holy cow, man. The assembly line.
It was huge. And so, that's what taught me.
There's 5 of them?
There's 5 total. Yeah. I've sold 2 off. I still have 3. Don't want to ride them. The people go, "Want you?" And they all start and run, and we've ridden them run them up and down the road. But I don't have much of a desire. I really enjoy brand new bikes. So then, as far as devaluing one, I'd rather just look at it cool and enjoy it. Yeah. Because I'd rather hop on a brand new 25. It's 4-stroke that I really like, and enjoy it. So, but what I learned with doing these builds, and there's a lot of interest in these builds. Guys are getting, and that's where we're talking about these 90s bikes. You can still pretty much find everything, but on these 5, it took me 10 sets of suspension to make the 5, and about 8 engines to make the 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
you were buying just loose engines?
Yeah, and bottom ends, and finding good cylinders that weren't sleeved. So finding good, things like that. So I have a good buddy, Brad, who helps me a lot with the engines over the years. He helped me rebuild a lot of the engines, and that was huge. And then everything else is just, piece by piece. The frames all needed welding.
Yeah.
I got a buddy, Dallas, that helps me with welding it. So we do that stuff. So it was just like, and then finding stuff on eBay. And then nowadays with our following, I can post, hey, we're looking for this. And I'll get people write me, and then I can send them buy a shock from a guy back east, Yeah. And so that was really helpful. So it was pretty good.
What do you, like I said, I was telling you earlier, we're starting a vintage feature called Warhorse that's going to be really neat, just kind of vintage focused. And it's funny to me, I think it's funny, is that the definition of vintage, depending on who you're talking to, is totally different, right? An older guy's like, that's not vintage, that 95 or 92. And I'm like, well, kind of is. I mean, it depends on
the official, like when you go to these vintage races, and this is where I think, unfortunately, like the ARMA organizations, some of them are kind of holding it back because these, like a 73 to or like early 70s to like 75 are the only vintage bikes.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what's happening is most of those bikes now are getting
talking about a business model that'll just you're just putting yourself out of business.
So those bikes are all getting most of them are getting fixed up and sold as museum pieces, just like what I did on these 96s, right? So they're just getting fixed up, and they're going to sit in somebody's man cave from now on, or they're going to that auction, the Mecum auction. Since that's happened now guys are realizing we can sell a bike there. I can fix it up. I got $4,000 to $6,000 into it, and I can sell it for 10 to 15 or whatever it is, right? They can sell it and be done with it. Because also part of the next problem is it's too hard to find parts to rebuild it. So you want to get it running, get it good, and then sell it. And so the vintage racing, that's what Scott Burnworth was doing a good job with, at least out west here. And it wasn't huge, but he was doing a good job with getting some of these 80s and 90s bikes out racing and not worrying so much about actual classes, as far as the legitimate vintage. His actual vintage numbers were just a couple, classes. It seems like the 80s and 90s stuff was actually bigger in some ways, or as big. So,
but look how many years ago that was.
Right.
Of course that's vintage, dude. It's 50 years ago, like some of this stuff. So like, when do you stop? If it's a two-stroke, it's pretty much vintage, outside of
the
obviously new Yamahas and KTMs, but maybe Kawasaki here shortly.
Right, which is cool that we can see more there. And hopefully Ventco's a cool company, and that's the guy, Kurt Leverton's, who I worked for with CNL.
Yeah.
He's got a vintage company that's doing stuff. I do some stuff with him, and they do a great job of finding little niche parts to make for vintage bikes to help keep them going. Their motto's like, get back on track, or, I always say helping save dirt bikes' lives, with these older bikes.
Yeah, and I mean, you need someone that is, like, I lean on you for this vintage stuff because I'm like, dude, I have no idea. Norm Bigelow is another big help.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole separate world, man.
So I have a guy named Norm Francis who builds really cool bikes, and he helped Cody Schock build that one that he had. He's helped on a couple of those. He's helping me with this Husky 400 I'm doing because it's a 73, so it's way out of my scope.
Oh, man.
And so he's helping me with that because it's way beyond kind of the stuff I'm used to dealing with or even want to deal with. You know? So he's been huge. So we're like halfway
What's that?
along.
I saw that tank in your garage. What's that about?
That's for that 73.
What are you doing with that?
I got a good deal. I found that on Facebook, and that's going to go on that bike.
Okay.
It's going to go on that. It's a cool.
Are you going to ride it, or what are you going to do?
No.
Yeah.
No, we're going to fix it up. Ventco has cool air shocks. We got a different swing arm. We're going to get it all running, and then we'll probably make it like a display bike for Ventco and do some stuff with it, some videos and stuff like that. So we'll do something with you guys too.
Let's do it.
Fun. Yeah,
Let's
that'd be
do
cool.
It. All right. Hey, that's seems like a good spot to take a little break. This is your Twirly Designs timeout, guys. Stick around. We'll be back to keep talking here with Jay. We got 80s rock to talk about, all kinds of stuff. Stick around.
Very cool.
Dunlop. There is a reason every AMA championship in the past decade was won on Dunlop tires. They are the best. Choose the best performing tire and a brand that has never wavered in their support of our sport. Choose Dunlop. Pro Circuit. Pro Circuit products are designed with one goal in mind: winning. Through passion and hard work, Pro Circuit has operated the most successful 250 team in the history of the sport. They use that same formula when developing exhaust, engine, and suspension parts for every brand. When only the highest level of performance is acceptable, trust Pro Circuit.
Seat Concepts prides themselves in offering the best seat foam and cover products available for off-road, moto, dual sport, adventure, quad, and street motorcycles, all at affordable prices. So whether you're looking for better performance or more comfort, choose a superior American-made product from Seat Concepts.
Something from nothing. That's what Nihilo Concepts is about. It starts with a spark, an idea, a concept, which leads to a design, and finishes with engineered excellence with the highest quality products created with durability in mind. All our products are made in the USA at our state-of-the-art facility in Stuart, Florida. Whether you are a weekend warrior, ride for fun, or at the highest level of competition, Nihilo Concepts offers innovative titanium, aluminum, and carbon fiber parts for your dirt bike. We offer a wide variety of products that you can customize to your liking. Browse our site for foot pegs, brake tips, engine components, specialty tools, frame grip tape, lever grips, carbon fiber components, motor stands, our secondary on-switch, plus much more. Head to NihiloConcepts.com and see for yourself why factory teams like Red Bull KTM, Rockstar Husqvarna, Troy Lee Designs Gas, Orange Brigade, Club MX, KLM Gas, and some of the fastest riders in the world choose Nihilo Concepts.
Welcome back, guys. That was your Troy Lee Designs timeout. And if you haven't been over to TLD, their spring line is out. They are blending art and speed. They've got all kinds of really cool designs, standard TLD stuff. Nobody makes a better looking set of gear than Troy, and their SE5 helmet really sets a standard for keeping yourself out of, concussion zone. So check them out. Mountain bike gear, helmet paint, whatever you need, they've got it. Troy Lee Designs. We're stoked to have them be solid supporters of this program.
You do a great job of those ad reads. I've tried. Yeah, I've tried. It's hard. People don't realize it's hard.
Bring your mic up just a touch so you go
See, you know to pay attention to things like that, and it's hard to do that. Like with our little thing, it's to remember to do things, or to you've said that a bunch of times, but still you are able to do it pretty good.
The hardest part is like the ad reads at the beginning. We used to tell our partners, hey, send us a read or an ad, and some of them just don't have them. Like, TBD, MX, they had to make one. Yeah. And so I had to just do something temporary. And so I had to kind of write out a little script and then read it like I'm a voiceover guy. That's hard to do.
Well, I just did one for ProX.
Did you?
Yeah, I did one for ProX. So they should be sending it to you. Yeah.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you'll have it. And so it might have just played during this. Who knows?
Maybe it did.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get back to your story. You've taken like all of your life experiences to this point, the project bike thing, which you really evolved, and you've turned into a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Like I think it's cool because you think of YouTube like someone who's big on YouTube, and you think like some young kid or whatever, but it's like here you are, like you said. I'm not going to ask a gentleman never tells his age or has, but we're both getting up there.
Oh yeah.
So I guess take me through the genesis of Dirt Bike TV and kind of what you guys have done.
Well, and a lot of it was for Spencer, especially my son, to have something else to do to help. So he's been able to help a lot and do videos. So we just learned. I've never
your mic is going just there.
All right. I've never edited videos, and I didn't really want to learn anything new. And that's another thing from old guys is they don't want to do anything new.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've wanted to stay in what I do and promote that and do that. And even as we keep evolving and changing, there's tons of good content on YouTube. Okay. Latest riding. You can see the coolest, off-road, motocross, all this different stuff. So even currently, we're always changing what we're kind of doing. And now we're kind of trying to stay more focused just on tech stuff, because at the end of the day, we can't compete with like what you guys do, or somebody's got a review on a brand new bike or whatever. So for us, that's what we're doing. And what's nice about some of that stuff is if somebody's going to look up brake bleeding and flushing, right, they can find that 5 years later. They're going to come back to that. They're not going to maybe come back to a story on a 25 YZ450, right?
And I love, it's all about finding your lane, right? And it's what I love about the tech stuff, because you're right, it's evergreen. That's what I did with this show. Yeah. We can go back and watch our first show with DeCoster. It's just as relevant because it's him telling his life story.
Right.
And it's the same with yours. Someone who in 5 years goes, who the hell is Jay Clark? And they want to come watch, you know what I mean? It's you telling your whole story.
Right.
That's what I dig about those formats. Nothing wrong with the other ones. We have products like that, but I really like this. It's somebody, I love something that's evergreen, that And I tell my partners, hey, take the cost of this and amortize it over as long as the internet's around, because people will keep coming back and watching.
Right.
And I'll have shows, not to get off on a tangent here, but like Denny Stevenson's show.
Right.
He was at like 40,000 views for about 3 years. And I just looked this year, he's at like 300,000. And I'm like, what happened?
I think because he went missing.
Oh, maybe that is it.
That
That might be it. Denny, go on a bender. I need you to get you a 600. No, don't do that. Anyway, it's just interesting that way. So anyway, tell me about, so Spencer kind of helped you get all that stuff launched. And
Yeah, so we've done that, and then
he's teaching Dad how to run the GoPro. And
yeah, so we would do periods of, we'd be off on it for a little bit, off of it, because I don't want to edit anything. So sometimes we'd go months without posting anything, and then eventually it's like try to do more. And then over the years, Donnie's helped on some videos. So now in the last few years, we've been able to get a lot more consistent with having stuff regularly. Donnie helps on videos, and so Donnie likes to help because then we can do stuff on his bike, So we do something on his bike and he'll help out. And then I have a good buddy, Rado, which and he has Dirt and Iron is his channel, and he helps on a lot of videos as well. So he'll help on some videos, and it's fun to work with somebody like that. And so him and I have been friends for 7-8 years or whatever it's been. And so that's been fun to have somebody like that. And he's, I don't want to say not as jaded, but he's just more, at times he's much more excited about the industry because he's not.
You see it.
Yes.
He's just like so precocious with all of it, right?
Yeah, he loves a lot about it, and he's become a real big fan over the last few years, last 3 to 5 years. He's become a bigger fan of Supercross and motocross. He watches all the nationals and Supercrosses, and so he's really into it. So that's part's pretty fun. So and that's, if you're really into it, I enjoy watching the races. I don't enjoy going to the races physically too much anymore, but so I don't really like going. I haven't been to a race in years, and not a Supercross in a long time. 10 plus years. And then the national, the last time it was at Glen Helen, probably was the last time I was there, 16, 17, whatever.
You haven't been to a national since?
Not to a national.
Never been to Paula?
I've been to Paula on a Friday to help do tires, but didn't go Saturday. I just go home and go to Glen Helen. So my perfect day is go to Glen Helen and ride in the morning, and then come back and watch the nationals in the afternoon in my AC garage.
You're a smart man.
You're right.
You should come down, though. The traffic's great.
Right.
He said sarcastically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat seeing somebody that has that new set of eyes. Like Jeff, my partner with Whiskey Throttle. He's the same way.
He's a big fan, yeah.
I'm like, I'm like you. I've been around so long, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm almost like, another race.
Another dirt bike, another brand new dirt bike.
And he's like,
ride.
oh my gosh, I can't believe I have a credential. I get to go on the stadium floor. Like he's just cloud nine.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job, which is cool. So it's like,
but I see that in Rado. I see the same thing.
Yeah, and that's why he does. And I think that's what comes across to on his videos that he does for his channel, is people know that he's genuine. He's pretty excited. A long time ago,
stay motivated.
Yes. And I laughed because one time he was talking. He was going to shoot a video, but he wasn't up enough. Like, he would turn this term up enough, and I was like, man, if I got time and it's time to do it, I'm doing it. I don't care if I'm up enough. We're getting it done. So he likes to be really excited and more into it, because many times I'm not that excited into it because it could be the end of the day and it could have been who knows what's going on. So So anyway, he's really cool that way. So
one thing that's cool about the mechanic thing too, like you guys kind of stick into the technical thing. We found, we really tried to push off road because there's so many people that ride off road and dual sport, and I thought, okay, let's take care of that. Let's make some cool off road and dual sport content. And we do have some things that I think will hit. This dual sport feature we're doing is going to be really fun. But the off-road stuff, it's like, even if you're an off-road rider, you still want Supercross and motocross content. That's what you want to watch, even though you don't even ride it.
Right.
You still want to watch it, and you go ride trails. Yeah. They don't really want to see off-road content as much, which I find like I scratch my head at that a little bit.
Well, this last weekend was that big grinding stone race out at Page, Arizona, by Lake Powell. Mm-hmm. Just crazy stuff, right, what they're doing and destroying these bikes. But at the end of the day, most people would still rather watch Supercross. You know, like, if you can and it's tough to fathom what they're doing on those rocks it is pretty gnarly, but most people would never go on rocks where they've at least been on a dirt motocross track of some sort to be able to semi gauge how gnarly that triple is or whatever.
I just took away from it like, okay, I am super jaded, like not jaded, just we're old. We've been around it so long.
Right.
It doesn't have the sparkle that it does for most people still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They look at Supercross, and I always say that is the blonde at the bar with big boobs. Like everybody's looking, right?
Well, whenever there's an off-road race or any type of race anywhere, if they're camping or staying on Saturday night, that's what they're watching Saturday night.
Yeah,
That's like they promote it. Oh, we'll be watching in the barn or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Everybody's fans.
It's crazy because I've done some off-road races, so I have so much respect for what those guys do. They are gnarly, but people don't. I don't know. It doesn't draw the eyeballs.
Yeah, it's a good community. I went to Blythe and did the NGPC on the new YZ250FX. I did it this January, and it was really fun.
It's great. Yeah. Great community. Like, great people.
Yeah. Really good people that run the race series. So if you're out west here, that's a good series.
Yeah,
it's really popular.
Yeah, for sure. What advice would you give to someone who says, "Hey, I want to start a YouTube channel in this sport, or I want to get involved in," because I'm blown away when I go to YouTube and like my suggested stuff. There's channels I've never even heard of, and they'll have hundreds of thousands of views potentially.
Right. Well, I guess if you're just talking about YouTube itself, I would say don't quit your day job, because that's the problem. Is it's iffy if you can make a living at it. Like, so you might think that it's going to be difficult on YouTube. I can tell you right now, we don't make any money on YouTube itself. Luckily, we have some partners who we can get their stuff on, and it's some added content for the builds we do, for the companies we work with, and there's going to be some evergreen there. But for the most part, we're not. By the time, if I edited all my own stuff and shot all my own stuff, it'd be a little different, right? But the way we're doing it, it's more, this is just everybody that's involved gives everybody something to do.
Yeah, you got to pull from a lot of different revenue streams.
So if somebody's looking to get into it, first of all, you have to have something valid to say or do, right? That people want to see. And I will say it's really hard to get going now. If I'd started and been better poised in the YouTube space earlier, we'd be much further ahead. It's tough to get going.
Yeah.
And you have to have some content that people really want to see, which is tough to gauge. Definitely don't want to see any riding, because there's so much riding, right? Like, you can see any pro. Red Bull's got great footage of their guys, or Monster or whatever. So you're not going to put out your own riding unless it's just crashing. And there's only so many times you can crash, getting hurt.
Well, and there's been so many evolutions of moto media, like I talked about earlier, from cycle news to this to magazines to on and on. And I just wonder, like, what's next? Like, what's coming next? And I don't know. I mean, how do you stay in front of that?
Well, I'd be rich if I knew what was next, right? I need to know, but that's what's hard. But right, I mean, I never would have guessed that people would be watching videos on their phones, like more. Because if you look at the numbers, more people are watching videos on their phones than anywhere else. I'm like, really? Like, I don't like watching the iPad or on the TV because I'm old, but watching videos, like, as an enjoyment. I'll watch them in the garage if I need to learn how to do something. I'm on my car or whatever, or trying to do something.
I think the statistic, because we did a dive into this, it's about 90% of content is consumed on a phone.
Oh my gosh.
And most content, again, right around that 90%, is consumed on an app. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Not on Safari. They're not going to
They're not going to websites anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I said, not only are magazines outdated, websites are outdated. Like, people will use them if they have to go there to buy something and they really need it. But, like, a lot of times now, they're just, if you can't buy it on Instagram,
right,
or they go to Amazon, like, and it's just.
Yeah, so I never would have guessed that would be the case, because it seems like a step backwards to me, in so many ways, compared to enjoying content like on your big screen TV or whatever, what you're enjoying and how you enjoy it. So it's all different, I guess, but I just never would have guessed that'd be a thing, like, like it is. I never thought texting would be as big as it is, because to me, when texting started, I'm like, this just seems way less than, and now I prefer to text than talk on the phone in some ways, at least for a lot of things, because it's like, you don't need to talk on the phone to say, I'll be there in 30 minutes, you can just text it,
What's your take? When I'm starting to think, someone asked me what's kind of the next thing, and I go to Elon's deal, the Neuralink, because he's talked about how the phone is already an extension of us. Everyone has one, and you just have to pull it out of your pocket, swipe it up, find the app, put whatever, right? That's the downside. With his little button that he puts into your brain,
Right.
you have instant access to it. Is that where we're going, dude? Like I'm going to listen to a podcast. Okay, I'm listening to it right now. Like, and it's just playing in your head.
Right. It seems far-fetched, but, compared to what we have now, it's like not so much.
That's scary to me.
Yeah.
That's all really scary to me. And maybe I'm glad I'm old.
Right.
I don't have to wait long for the sweet release of death to end all of the questions.
You're doing pretty good, though, because you can read that size 12 font right
That's
there.
true. I'm doing okay. Yeah, that's true. I just need a couple new knees and I'm set. We kind of talked a little bit about this, but like all of the technical side, you're not doing video editing? Is that Spencer?
No, yeah, Spencer or Donnie or Rado.
Okay.
I have a few people who help me do that, so I try to, stick with what I know, and I feel like I'm too old to pick up something new. And it's also nice that I can help other people do stuff,
Yeah.
and keep other people included.
Yeah. So even like the social, like Instagram posts, are you doing that?
I do most of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of organize and do most of that. Spencer and my daughter help with just different things all along there with our website and comments and stuff like that. And we try to reply to everybody. Most of the replies are, hey, you need to email Jay because Jay's old. So we do. I don't like DMs and if I write somebody back on a question, then they want to ask you more. Say it's a simple answer, right? I'm so tempted to answer them, but I can't answer them because if I answer them, then they're going to start asking me more and more questions, and you're stuck there in DM. And if I don't answer them back, then it's like, well, you answered me that one time. So I learned that they just get a blanket response back that says to email Jay, and here's his email, which works really good because the problem is most of the time I need to send them a link or something.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's going on. Here's a link, and I can send them a link, or here's the part they want to know about a part or a tool. I can send it to them, and I can't deal with all that in a DM.
Yeah, I mean, and that is where technology is pretty cool, right?
Right.
It's shrunk this world of ours, this motocross world, because think about when we were riding out in 95 out in the hills. Whenever first people had Blackberries and phones, I'm like, why would you? That's
Right.
crazy. Like, I don't need a phone. If I need a phone, I call when I get home.
Right.
I thought it was crazy.
Right.
And now, like, if I leave my house without my phone, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, I don't have my phone. Like, what am I gonna do?
I'm with you.
It's weird, like
Right.
how far we've gone in such a short amount of time. My first phone was that Motorola Flip
Yeah.
that had the little holder and in your belt. And Budman had it. And I thought he looked so cool with that. He'd pull it out like a little pistol. I was like, damn, that's cool. And I got one. And here we are.
I ran the BlackBerry for a long time.
You did?
Oh, yeah, long time. Yeah. Too long.
I just thought I'm like, why would you? I can't believe you'd want that. I just thought it was so weird.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself? You mentioned this earlier and you kind of denied it, but as you get older, do you see yourself kind of like transitioning to more off-road or dual sport adventure? I mean, a lot of people are doing that.
Right.
Because tracks, and I say this all the time, I say it sort of like, I'm looking at you, local tracks.
Yeah.
Quit it with the supercross jumps.
Right.
You're like getting people hurt, and you're intimidating the older crowd who still want to come ride at your track.
Even many of our vet tracks around aren't very vet.
No.
And they call them a vet track, and it's like kind of insulting, but they're not. They're like a B track or whatever you want to call them. They're not. There's way too many. Maybe they're not doubles, but they're tables. Or the couple that I'm thinking of do have doubles, and it's like, or downhill doubles or uphill step ups, pretty big, and it's like. And I see that there's a lot of people get hurt there. So I would love to see a lot better tracks that way, but we're getting less and less tracks. So but my future, it's tough because I do have the luxury of having cool bikes, and I do have a couple really cool dual sports. But whenever I say I'm going to do more off-road, the reality is overall I get hurt more trail riding. Just because you do it, I think maybe because you do it for longer periods of time. We'll do it for a 2 or 3 day trip, and you're doing it 5 to 7 hours each day. And stuff happens.
Yeah.
And it can be the simplest thing. I rode Saturday, I hit a tree with and I had wraparounds on, hit it, and boom, but it threw me to the left, there was nothing. And I got a 29-inch inseam and couldn't reach, and I was down over here. So I still go back to, I think for me, riding motocross in some form, my buddy Kelly out in Arizona, he sent me, I'll have to show you that he made it. He's Gary Sutherland's buddy too. In Tucson, he got some land, and he's got this land. It's gorgeous, just desert. But he's got a little track, like a 2-minute track, and he's just watering. He's got a well out there, and he's watering, and it's basically no jumps, just some,
like a hill track or field track,
just at his own property. And when I see something like that, I'm like, you could do that in your 70s, and I can tell you right now, even if you did a 15 or 20-minute moto, right, as trail riding is awesome, but it's mainly because you're going to cool places. You're at 10,000 feet, or if you're in like Moab area, we go there, that area a lot. It's just that it's incredible looking, and you're seeing all these creations, you know, especially if you have, you know, if you see what God's made, you know, through this, and it's just, it's really eye opening, you know, when you're in these nature places.
Yeah.
But the actual riding part of it, to me, isn't as physically fun as just riding a sand track that's smooth and you can have fun.
Yeah, I think, at least for me though, the older I get, it's hard on my body.
Well, you're a little bit more beat up. Now, I've gotten plenty of injuries over the years, but I think you've gotten more.
Yeah, well, and if you jump everything that's on the track, and you're dragging your feet in ruts, and it's like your body's just going, I'm done, dude. You burned through the miles on the tires a long time ago. Where I can go on a dual sport ride, and I feel like I'm getting away with something illegal. The first time I rode out of here on a dual sport ride,
usually we are.
We usually are, but I was legal. I mean, I've got my motorcycle endorsement. I'm on a street legal bike. I pulled up to a stoplight and a cop pulled up next to me, and dude, I got so nervous. I'm like, oh no. Okay, I'll tell him I'm a cop or a fireman. I'll get out. And I'm like, wait, you're fully legal, dude. Everything is about what you're doing right now is legal. But it was the weirdest feeling. And then, you know, you're cruising down a freeway and like, this is a trip. Yeah. And then you're peeling off and you're getting into dirt trails, and that accessibility to me was really fun. And then we were coming home at night, you know, with headlights on and doing dual sport rides at night. A simple trail that you've maybe done a bunch of times is like a whole different world, right? Or like you're saying, I've done some off-road rides in Montana, and I just think this is crazy that they're letting me ride in this beautiful place, and it is legal.
And I definitely need to do it more, right? Even from my house, and especially even if it's with no one else. That's the problem. It's like a lot of times where if you can go to the track by yourself, and I just go park with guys I know. Yeah, I just go park with guys I know. They're all there, so I go park with them. If no one else can go from my group, I'll go park next to whoever, and we're riding. On the dual sport thing, sometimes it's harder to get motivated to leave if you don't have somebody right there. That's one of the complaints I get with guys with dual sports too. So
gotta have a buddy.
Yeah.
But really, you shouldn't be riding alone anyway, no matter where you are.
I agree.
Safety.
But I do it all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite project bikes you've ever built? I mean, you got this page open right here.
Oh, this is my 350 XCF. This is and this is a Dunlop version. Dunlop bike. That's one of my favorite bikes today. I wish Yamaha made a 350 FX. That would be cool. And I think, I'll cross my fingers, man. I just think there's a possibility.
Yamaha?
Yeah, I would hope so. But
I asked this question because the EXC line is the best-selling motorcycle for that brand. I think the best-selling motorcycle in North America,
right?
If I'm not mistaken. And so it's just like, well, why aren't these other manufacturers jumping on this, you know, this market?
Right.
And they've just said the emission standards are so hard, and it also has something to do with the total number of units you bring in determines your level of emissions standard, right? So Honda obviously brings in so many cars so their carbon footprint is more, and so they have a higher emission standard.
Right.
So it isn't apples to apples with what a brand like KTM would have to bring in, right? Which I think is nuts. Again, more bureaucracy, but that's why they don't. When you ask why don't they make a really good dual sport, that's why.
They run metal tanks where the Austrians are running plastic tanks, you know, just little things you see that the Japanese seem to have to do. So
well, I got some really interesting information this week, which Triumph just announced they have a dual sport coming out. I don't know if you saw that. That just launched.
I knew they were
going
to make an off-road version, but they're going to make a.
Sorry, it is. I meant an off-road. It's like an enduro version. And there's another manufacturer that has that planned, plus some dual sport.
Oh, cool!
Models, really high-end ones.
Very cool.
So,
it's a good time, and I'm stoked to see that that people are making gas engine bikes like these new, you know, they're all in. I'm like, great.
Does it surprise you, Jay, that I'm just sometimes I scratch my head. I go, like when Beta came in and then Triumph's coming in, I'm going, really? I mean, okay.
Oh, it totally surprised me. And then
now
Ducati's coming in. It's like, so it totally surprises me because everybody's like, oh, the sky's falling. We're all going to be on electric bikes in a few years. And they're coming in with gas engine bikes. So they're not drinking the same Kool-Aid as what everybody else is. So somehow they think there's plenty to go. So hopefully that's the case.
I just can't see where any manufacturer is selling enough units to make up for their marketing dollars. And I'm almost scared to say this out loud. And I don't want one of the bean counters to scratch their head and go, you know what? He's right.
No,
what are we doing? But
I've often thought of that. It's tough. I don't know how the math works, especially when you pay their top guys the money they are.
I don't think the maths. I think it's a R&D and development for them, and also image marketing.
Right.
We're a racing brand, Yamaha. We race.
Yeah.
Like we make race bikes. I don't know. I don't think I'd want to sit down with their accountant and really go over the numbers. I think it'd scare you.
But yeah, and with those old bikes.
I just worry so many people come in, it thins it for everybody, and then all of them suffer a bit, and maybe some of them, like a Suzuki, let's say, goes, we're done with it.
Right. It'll be interesting. And as far as the project bikes, though, there's so many good bikes out there right now to ride. That's what I just love, is that you can go hop on a brand new bike with fuel injection and it runs so perfect. They're so good. And then if you get them tuned a little bit, they're even better. It's just fun to make them better. And then the old bikes, like all those CRs I did were a blast. And then with Donnie, we built that KX500. Mm-hmm. He has that. That was really fun. Just because everybody digs it. Everybody digs 500s. They like the idea of 500s. No one really wants to ride one for real.
The only one I ever rode, there's a guy named Oscar from KX Gurus. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He built one for Sonny Garcia.
Yeah,
do you remember that
ours
bike?
Is very close to that. Yeah, I was out there when we shot it with those guys out at Kuya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That bike was incredible.
Yeah.
He had like Showa A-kit stuff, a recluse clutch, or whatever, slipper, not a slipper, but an automatic.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
A recluse auto clutch, yeah.
So you could install it, which on a 500 is
really
huge.
Nice. Yeah.
He fabbed up like modern brakes for it, right? It was the axle lug was from a modern bike.
Yeah, we did most of that on our build.
You guys did too?
Most of that list. We just didn't do some of the high-end suspension stuff, but we got more current KX, 450 forks on it. KX 450 rear wheel. So it has front rear was the good, KX 450 brakes, so it actually stopped,
Yeah.
So Spencer actually likes riding that thing. We tested it out with the Recluse in there just recently with the auto clutch, and we just had a video come out on that, and it was really fun. He was having no problem riding. He loved riding that thing more than any of us. So
that's the only one I've ever ridden where I'm like, ooh, this is fun. Like I could keep riding this thing. Most of them vibrate so much, and I feel like
it was a lot better, the vibration, because that one and ours, Tom Morgan did the crank, and so a lot less.
Balanced everything. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of better than the ones they put in the aluminum frames, because they're not designed for it per se. So I just think, though they look cooler maybe in the aluminum frames and more modern, but I think in that steel frame where it was meant to be is probably a little better.
Yeah, I agree. So those would be your favorites if you had to pick one?
Yeah. But it's just kind of like the next, whatever I'm working on next is fine. It's like they're all fun. Like I said, it all beats digging ditches or whatever, right? So
that's true.
Yeah, I'm working on dirt bikes, and so even when I have a problem or something breaks or whatever, it's not that big a deal. But
I have a few that stand out that we've done, like that Bradshaw YZ125. It was just looked so cool,
right?
And maybe that had because Damon was kind of a hero of mine.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for that, but is there something? There's none that just stand out for you, or like?
No, they're all pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, it's nice when you get one on the cover. We did this YZ one, this RM125 we had on the cover of MXA here just a couple months ago. That was really nice. So, and it was an 06. We just cut the side plate right here just to give it a little more modern look, and then Decal Works gave it a cool look. So it's just a fun deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all.
Is there any project bike? Like your white whale, like is there one you wanted to do but you're just like I can't? Like for me, it's those. I think it's 82, 83. The KXs with the rear fender.
Right, those are cool.
I saw one over in Farley Castle one year.
Right,
looked like it had just rolled off the showroom, and it rained the next day. The guy was going to go ride it in the mud. I'm all, bro, what are you doing? Go home, get out of here with this thing. It was so pretty, gold.
Yeah.
I think the swing arm was gold.
Yeah,
And the
like
rims were gold.
like a dull gold.
Oh,
They're so cool, and
I don't think they were very good.
right. I don't think
But-
so, and that's why you don't see a lot of those restored or around.
You don't
No.
nowhere.
No, I think you're gonna have a tough time finding parts for those.
Yeah.
Even that rear fender piece with the number plates on it. Who's gonna go mold that, and make that? I don't know. So that's a tough one. But I guess sometimes I think about like that 77 RM80. Well, maybe it'd be fun. Am I nostalgic? And if I did it, then would I even want to keep it around? Do I? I'm not at the place where I would have it in a. I don't know.
You're not going to put it in your living room.
And I don't care so much about the nostalgia part of it, or that 91 RM250 part of me goes, it'd be kind of nice. But then it goes away when you hop on that new 25 Yamaha.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, that's what's so nice about the bikes nowadays. They're so good that. But I do like looking at a lot of the cool bikes, and Langston's does a cool show every fall. We've been going to that, and like you said, Tom White's place is really cool, where he kept a lot of history there.
Yeah.
Got some great bikes and.
Yeah, a lot of our Warhorse videos are going to be showcasing his stuff because it's unbelievable.
It's incredible what he has out there.
Like unbelievable, and I feel like not really, not many people know about it or have seen it.
Well, since he passed, it went obviously it's been way less that they've been having people out there, but he was having a lot of people out there, and
yeah. But if you don't live in Orange County,
yeah, it's not convenient,
right?
No, it's a small community, and over the years, some of the magazines MXA's done pieces on them, but it's kind of run out. So yeah, I think there's definitely some room to show people some of those bikes, and some of them you don't understand unless you have someone like you're talking like Norm Bigelow who can explain why this bike is cool, because some of them you don't even know why it's cool.
Yeah.
Like in the sense of, hey, there was only this many, or what it was for. So it's cool getting that history.
The history behind it, like they have one of the black cows that I think was it.
Yeah.
Lackey that raced it. There's stories behind them,
Yes.
but you got to have someone that can tell you the story.
Right.
That's why it's such a bummer, Tom. I mean, what a great guy he was.
Yes, for sure.
Such a bummer he's gone. And another reason why I'm motivated to do that vintage feature for that very reason, because like once those guys go, all of that knowledge, all of that stuff, it goes with him, right? I mean, who did he impart that on?
Right.
So Norm is like, there's a handful of dudes like him, but not many.
Well, it's cool that Kristen and John are keeping that going. At
For
least
sure,
that it's there.
yeah.
So anyway,
but they don't know
as much.
He forgot more about vintage motorcycles than they know. And that's not disrespect. I love John and Kristen, but you know what I'm saying? Tom was oh man, he lived it.
Yeah, it's so cool. And people like him are what kept, the four-stroke nationals, and the vet race. Those things were things that he really helped promote and to keep going. Helped the sport a lot.
There's a lot of. It's not easy to do events. There's a lot of risk, and they do it just in his honor. I don't think they'd still be doing it. It's like just for Tom.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But man, a lot of work. You've been all about how long? I mean, shoot, you've been in this sport since
91.
91, long time.
Yeah.
What's your general take on the industry and the people in it?
I guess, and when you added the industry is great, but then you added the people in it. And one thing I learned is that it's I'll say a love-hate. It's up and down. Because there's parts of it that I really love, and then there's parts that I don't. But for the most part, within the industry, 80% of the people are just incredible. It's like, and I think it's probably lower than that than most other industries, because I talk to people and buddies and other things, and you know what fire's like, and there's no perfect place to go work. No industry. You think you have a view in your head, but there are people who aren't of good moral character in every industry, right? So in our sport, though, in our industry, there's some really good people. There's, that's one thing I've come across, and there's some people that do a lot of good stuff that don't tell people about, that who are behind the scenes and help people in many ways. So I've seen a lot of that go on. People that maybe a lot of people could judge them differently, but then they find out that, hey, this guy does a lot of stuff for people that need it, And so there's a lot of good people that way. And I joke around. There was this in the early 90s or late 80s, there was this baseball player. He was like from the Dominican Republic, and he became a meme before there was memes. And he goes, baseball been very, very good to me. He was like, and so I say moto's been very, very good to me. And so for me, it's been great. I can't ask for better. And one of the big things that's been helpful for me is I work from home for the last, 30 something years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty nice to be able to do that from work from home. It's been I've been really lucky to work with really good people, but it's nice that I don't have to be in an office space with people, way less conflicts and so forth. And even today I work with just great people. Like at Dunlop, the people that all are involved are all really passionate about the sport, and every part of it, from the racing side with Brock and Brian, and inside, with Buckley and Chad and Chris, all the guys that get it, and that even on the amateur level,
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of just real kind of down to earth people. It's not
Yes.
Like you said, there's always the people who want to pound their chest, or there's always people that are whatever in any industry.
And there, I guess,
but
there's
we
jealousy.
have a big group that's like, they're just good people.
Right.
I find myself all the time like, he's a good dude. I like that guy. I say that a lot, and maybe more so than I think a lot of other industries.
And I think I've been surprised, even with my deal, that there's been, I feel like, a little bit of jealousy at times. And it's if we have a little bit of success with this or that, and it's like, well, this doesn't make the pie any smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, just because we, do something or whatever, it's like, I'm not stealing from you.
Yeah.
There's been a little bit of that, and I feel like that's kind of weird at times. I'm like, man,
that's a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And because our industry is so small, it happens.
Yes.
No, this is my piece of the pie. You're going to take it. I don't want I don't want you to have any success.
Right.
I wish all the bad things that happened to you and only you. Jeff calls me sometimes. Because I don't hate on people, but I'm competitive.
Right.
And so if you're a competitor, and I mean a direct competitor, which I don't consider you what you do, it's not that I don't like you. It's like, I'm going to beat you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still racing, right? Like, it's just down in me. And so he thinks I'm hating on people. He calls me Silky Johnson, which is a Dave Chappelle character, player hitter's ball. Check it out if you don't know it. But
a prime example is a bunch of your sponsors sponsor your competitor shows too.
Yeah, totally.
So like there's
Motorsport sponsors, I think, all of the major podcasts.
Right. So there's tons of, you could have direct competitors that are sponsored by some of the same companies. So they're seeing value in both of what you guys do. So if you have this guy over here and you.
Yeah, we're on our lanes.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's rad is you found your lane and there's no one else in it. That's great.
And I still, I'm still able to communicate with other media, with yourself and with the magazine guys and different things to still be able to service them with, Swap Moto and Vital and, the magazines and stuff. It's good to work with everybody. And I got good relationships with most all of them. And it's been nice. And I have long-term relationships, guys I've been dealing with for 30 years plus, kind of thing. So
do you, when people, I'm sure you get all the time, like, hey, I want to get into the industry. I want to do this. I want to do that. Do you encourage them to do it? Or what do you do? What warnings do you give them?
So we joke around a lot that I'm a dream crusher. So I say no. This industry's tough. I mean, you want to. So the first thing I tell them is, if you're going to get into it, get in as slow, to where you can do something, your day job, so to speak, and see what you're, in or can do. Yeah. But the reality is, for most people, if you don't have the access or whatever, for most people, they can make far more money outside of our industry. Yep. For most people, if you were to put your mind to it and work hard on something else, you can usually do that. And for most guys, I tell them, like, if that's a good option for you, if you have a lane open to go do that, and buy dirt bikes and buy your own parts, and you're going to enjoy it and not hate it, because how many people are in our industry who don't ride that much. You're one of the few that rides. That's your age, that used to be an ex-racer, right? You can think of how few.
It's crazy how many don't.
Right. And because once they stop for a year or two or three, then it's hard. And when they do come back, like your brother-in-law, he gets hurt right away, and then it's like, okay, I'm doing that again, But if you keep going, it just becomes part of you. And it's to me, to be in this industry and not ride, it's just a shame. I don't know how you'd.
Well, but imagine if you had to pay $10,000 for every bike.
Right.
You might change your thought process.
I would just have one bike.
Yeah, maybe.
Right,
Maybe.
instead of a bunch. So, but I just think to enjoy this sport, to make it worth it, and the hard work because I do work a lot, and today's going to be a long day, and it's probably not a day I wish I was working a bunch. It's like I got going to have a bunch of wheels to change when I get back. I got set up and did a bunch this morning. So, but that's constant. I always want to try to over deliver for everybody I work with, and that's kind of been my attitude. And so I wouldn't get into this thinking it's going to be easy, because it's you need to work hard and be better than everyone else, because it is a small industry. So, but I will say, with the mentality shift of with people working, if you are willing to work hard, you can make your headway. But you just need to be careful about what lane you're in, because you have to be careful. There's not a lot of money out there in what you want to do. They see the mechanics like winning Supercross or whatever. There's only a few of those making a good living. Yeah. So
and they work. I tell guys that want to be mechanics, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Don't have a family, don't have a girlfriend, because you're gone.
And the travel's tough. They think it's all. There's something about box fans maybe that weren't as bad, but when you're flying back and forth every weekend, that's tough. And flying's not fun. I hate it. When I was done, it was like really nice to keep it minimal. I fly once or twice a year anymore. Try to keep it low.
On a box fan, you had to drive, but there's no boss.
No.
Saying, all right, today do this, this, and this. It's like, hey, man, I'm driving to,
There was no cell phone checking in on you.
Yeah.
So, so the industry, I do get a lot of questions about the industry, and we joke around that I'm a dream crusher and I want to keep people. I'd hate to encourage someone to give up everything, move to California, come out here, and you could get a job for Twisted, or a good company right away. But California is very expensive to live. I mean, it's like you could hardly afford a truck payment and an apartment to live in, right? So it's kind of tough. It's a tough situation. I don't know. Maybe get your feet wet and you get outside of California to build your mechanic skills or whatever you want to get into. And I get a lot of guys wanting to start shops in their town. Very tough too, competing with with the local shops. A lot of guys will start shops out of their garage, and I go, hey, keep it small, man. Keep it where that's where most guys all make their best money, is when they're just at their house. Just do that, keep it small, and you have your day job, you're good. So be careful. That's why I just tell people, be careful, because it's a tough deal, and it's easy for me to say, but I'm the only one that's been able to do what I do, and I've been blessed to be able to do it. Yeah,
and like I said, I think not many people are willing to hustle like you are. You're constantly on the go. If I didn't know you better, I'd say you had a cocaine habit. I mean, you're 100 miles an hour all the time.
And it does shut off, but like at 7 or 8, 9 o'clock at night, it'll shut off and like to chill and watch TV.
Do you just power down, just like in bed and you're out?
Well, no, I'd like to, watch something, watch football, whatever, watch something and chill out, and then go through my phone for the day. Because most days, then I just shot like 8 things on my phone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I got to go through those,
Does your wife get mad when you're on the phone?
Yeah.
Mine yells at me all the time about being on my phone. I'm like, it's work. And then, but Instagram, you're kind of scrolling, or you'll be editing something, and then pretty soon you're scrolling. She's like, you're just scrolling. Get off your phone. I'm like, I know. Sorry.
So it's tough to stay focused, because that's a tough thing on the phone. It's tough to stay focused on those things, right?
Yeah. Hey, we got our Ethica fit check here.
Oh, nice.
A little kit from our partners at Ethica, who are great partners. I got you some black socks. We're in California, standard.
Nice.
Moto. White socks. What are you gonna do with those?
I put some on the other day, and it was really weird, because I used to only wear white socks, right? And I put some on the other day, and I was like,
feel like a cholo down in LA, or what?
They look too weird.
Send you some cutoff khakis.
I was really late to the game on switching to black socks, and once I did, I realized it was way better, and they don't show dirt nearly as much.
Well, that's the thing. We're at the dirt bike track. White socks are terrible.
My hands are a little dirty. I just wipe them on my sock.
This is kind of the older style hat, not flat bill. So this would be our style. Okay. I know you're not a hat guy, but Spencer will dig it.
Spencer will dig it.
So big thank you to our partners over at Ethica. Whiskey 20% off anything from Ethica. So use it. And then I realized I hadn't gotten you a Whiskey Throttle shirt. This is our, old school Bull Taco logo.
Yeah.
Anything you ever want, Jay, I'll take care of you.
Awesome.
Any of that. So thank you to Ethica. Tell me about your family.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is super cool. Like when I see you and Spencer out riding, I don't have boys, but I do go riding with my girls. They both ride, and I really enjoy that. We'll trail ride. They'll ride tracks a little bit, and obviously that's different than you because he's faster than you now.
Yeah. So first thing on that with Spencer, we had a rule when he was coming up. I was riding 250Fs mainly. It's what I mainly ride 250Fs. I'll ride a 350. Like trail riding, I ride like the 350 XCF. Love that. But on the track, I've given up kind of even a 350. Because I like to ride a 250F because I can ride it harder, faster, longer, that whole thing, and feel a little safer. Bottom line is you can get hurt on a 150, right?
Sure.
So it doesn't matter. But with him, my rule was he's got to pass me on a 125 before he can ride a 250. He wanted to ride a 250. He's like 14 or so, right?
I remember him riding that 125, and
he had a couple 125s we built up, and I was on a 14 or so CRF 250. That's what I was riding back then. And the swing arm got these dents in both sides of the swing arm because he would hit me because he didn't have the it was too hard for him to pass me, but he would come in and just hit my swing arm.
Try to knock you down?
Yeah, because he wanted to get past me. So it took a few of those, but then he finally got faster. Yeah, and then we got him on a 250F, and he's been faster. And he's a good rider, good safe rider. He's hardly ever raced. We'd race a few times a year, just a couple, and he enjoyed it, but was never much into the racing. So he's a good rider. And then got hurt a couple times on little, but just freak stuff on little bikes, like on a 70 or whatever. Get a little, broken leg, but it wasn't like nothing serious.
Get a little broken.
But he had one.
It's not like a touch of the flu. He got like a little bit of a broken leg, but
they're like, it's a hairline. So they put this cast on for like 4 weeks. I'm like, if it's 4 weeks, what's the big deal? Like, it can't really be that broken. Yeah. But he had one bad one when we started.
4 to 6. That's just like the runny nose, or something.
Right. I've had lots of injuries, and for somebody that doesn't race pro, it's a longer list than you should have. But he got a bad one, got a spiral tib, lower leg twisted, and he was like 14, 15 in that range, and then got all the stuff in there, and then a year later took it all out. So there's a big job. That was up in Utah trail riding. But as far as riding with him up in the mountains, it's just in the trail, the desert stuff in the winter, or the mountain stuff, it's pretty cool when it's just the two of us, and sometimes we'll have other people, but we're usually talking with our cardos. Even if it's other people, we're just talking the whole time. It's really fun, and we're up in remote areas. We're at 10,000 feet, and we're way away from anything, and it's just amazing.
It's got to be cool though with your child, right? I mean, my girls will surf with me or ski with me, and it's like. Yeah. It's such a cool feeling. Kind of warms your heart, You go, this is what it's about right here.
Yeah. So
it's got to be like that when you guys are out on the trail. You're riding behind him, watching him ride, and just going, "This is cool."
Yeah. So it's fun, and then they're both, him and all three of them have graduated college, which is cool, and so I'm kind of proud to be able to help that and do that. And then I have two daughters. My older daughter helps a lot with. She's kind of become her and her husband have been kind of fans of moto, and he didn't ride as a kid, but he's been riding a little bit. So I keep a bike at his house, so it's good to marry well, right?
Okay.
So got a bike there, and so she helps a lot with our website and different things like that. So she enjoys that part of it. So that's been kind of fun, and they're big fans of every week. Are you guys live watching Supercross? You're like, because that's another thing everybody knows is not everyone's live watching it or whatever, so they're not afraid to say anything.
Yeah.
So we got that, and so anyway, they all seem to, and it's been a good tool to where I remember when the kids were little coming home, I was like at the track that day or whatever, and I come home and the girls are like, "Dad, you've been gone all day," and they're like all freaked out because I still was doing some work, and I was gone for like 5 hours. I went to Glen Helen and did some work and came home, and I was gone for like 5 hours, and it was like they thought I was gone forever. And I'm like, they don't know, because I was around so much as they were little that it was I think it was pretty nice to be able to be around and help out. And my wife's been great at that. And now they're all gone. It's kind of cool. It's just the two of us. I think some people would think it's not look forward to it, but and I think maybe we were, but now it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it.
Does Sarah? Sarah seems like she likes moto.
Oh yeah. She's a fan of it, because I think she's just by force you're kind of around it. But when she went to the races, when you go to the races, because in the early years we would go together. We would just drive. If we're going to go to Northern California or Arizona or whatever, we'd just drive in the van.
Okay.
We go to the races. So you just become a fan by default.
Yeah. My wife didn't
catch on.
She didn't like going when I raced professionally. She would just just go for me, and then
once you were done.
The minute it wasn't a job, she's like, yeah, I'm not going. I'll take her. Usually she'll go to one Supercross a year.
Okay.
And it's just like to humor me. I mean, she doesn't.
So if you're watching the races, she doesn't care.
Not at all.
Not at all.
She'll get up and bake something, or you know, like she's just.
And Sarah will come in. She'll go, tell me when the mains are. She'll come in for the mains.
Okay.
Kind of thing. And she pays attention to it all.
I just wonder. And I don't care if my wife's into it or not. Like,
right.
It's fine. But Sarah seems like she's she's come to some of our live shows with you and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like she'll humor it.
And she likes a little bit of the history of it. She digs that, you know, like when we go to Blackmore, like we've gone to the live shows and she sees Emig and just a lot of the history of the sport and stuff. She digs it. She's a fan and she likes Jeremy and all that. And just over the years, she has different fans of it, and it's been cool. So
now that you guys are empty nesters, what do you guys like to do for fun?
Well, we have my daughters
keep it clean, as Jay.
Right. That part's it's nice. It's kind of nice because you don't when you're young, before you have kids and you're together, you're just on the hustle, right? So hard, and you're not maybe valuing that time together. So when we're together,
how long were you married before you had kids?
Like 4 years or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. 4 years. So
those were fun times to me. Like we were married 5 before we had kids.
Yeah.
And this is when I was for the magazine traveling around doing like stories, and she'd go with me.
And it was fun, but not as fun as now. Like now
it's better now?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely better now because I think you can look back and see it all.
Okay.
And to me, it's more fun now.
Okay.
I think it's nicer now.
I mean, dude, I'm close. I'm 2 years behind you. Like
they're gonna be out of here soon. So it's nice. And my daughters each have 2 kids, so my daughters have kids.
Oh.
So we call them my daughters' kids. We don't call them.
You're not Grandpa Jay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
So my daughters have kids, and we do spend a lot of time with them. We're going up there this weekend to see 2 of them, so that'll be fun. And then my wife's going up to Seattle to see the other 2 next in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that'll be cool too, because when you're a new dad, and my kids were only 14 months apart, so it was just like bam, bam. You don't know what you're doing,
right?
And you know it's busy. There's a lot happening.
Yeah.
I feel like as a grandpa, you'll be able to enjoy it more, like appreciate it, and
and
then also when you're sick of it,
it's just
bye.
Yeah, I'm going back to the hotel or whatever, or you go see you guys are gone.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fun. It's nice, and it's cool when because most of the time they just want to be around you. Yeah. Hop on the motor, give them rides on the motorcycle. Most of them just love it to give them a ride on the motorcycle and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Are they all in Utah?
No, I got 2 in Utah and 2 in Seattle, and then Spencer hasn't had any yet, so they're still doing
Seattle. Okay.
Yeah.
Your oldest?
The middle one.
Middle one.
She's up in Seattle area.
Well, anything else you want to add here about the sport, the industry?
I mean, it's great. I mean, it's good. Right now, since post-COVID, I think things are taking a dip here, but overall, it's great. I mean, and we have some hiccups, like KTM's having some problems and stuff, but all this.
Can you believe that?
I guess I can believe it because when it was happening, you just kind of thought it was too good to be true. Like there was no one watching the store, like
they were just growing too fast
and just spending money like crazy. So I'm not surprised that it happened because when it came out, you're like, well, yeah. Like it seemed kind of silly. You're selling all, and then now you hear about the bicycle thing and the MotoGP thing seem to be huge money sucks that really hurt them. So hopefully things get turned around. I would have to think they do. From what it sounds like, we're in place because we don't want to see it.
No, that's not good for anybody.
No. So I think the industry's doing pretty well and people like to ride. So I just want to hopefully we can get more people riding and working on dirt bikes.
What happens if everything goes electric? What does Jay Clark do?
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't think.
Will that be the end of it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess you'd ride around the house or whatever because you can't do those 50, 60 milers we do up at 10,000 feet, right? Like you're not going to do that, It'll
just be over.
Yeah, those are 5 to 6, 7 hour rides, and
no more refueling videos.
No.
Your whole YouTube series would collapse.
You saw the benefit of that the other day when we took fuel in there.
Did.
It was nice. So, so I think the industry is doing pretty good. And it's nice that there's so much like what you have. There's so much content, so much stuff you can do. I listen to a good amount. I mean, I've listened to pretty much every Whiskey Throttle ever, and I enjoy all the good stories and what's going on. And
Well, it's nice, like you said. There's a tech podcast now, and there's this, which is personality based, and there's current events like weekend recap stuff, and there's a testing podcast, that Chris does. There's all kinds of stuff. So like whatever blows your hair back, we got it.
Right.
That's rad for moto fans.
It is, and it's kind of cool because it's such a small industry. It's hard to believe how much that there is.
There's a lot.
Right.
Sometimes I think, kind of like the motorcycles, I'm like, how is this being sustained? And to be perfectly frank, if this was my only job,
right,
I'd be living in a van down by the river, like
right.
Matt Foley.
That's why you're a fireman.
yeah. I mean, it's a tough industry, like you said, to get rich in. Well, our last question we ask everybody, I'm sure you're well aware, is how you want to be remembered in this industry.
Well, a couple guys have said it's just good to be remembered, right? I've heard guys say that. I think the big thing is, that guys, you don't have to be a champion or whatever to be successful. I think you and I have the same number of pro championships, right?
We do.
Okay.
You and I both. Well done. Donuts.
Which is cool. I mean, but you do have more wins. Okay.
Yeah.
And more
Together we have 4.
Together.
So good job.
So you don't have to be, an ex-pro racer or an ex-champion to be in the industry, but you do have to work hard. I mean, and so I guess that's the biggest thing that I remembered for is that I worked hard, just a regular guy who just was passionate about the sport and worked hard at it. And I think hopefully provided some good things for people to see and in some ways have changed the way some things happen, which is cool, but it's nothing life-changing. I mean, I'm not, curing cancer or anything, right? So it's just dirt bikes, and it's cool that that I can see that I have hundreds and hundreds of bikes that I've built. It was hard to even grab. I grabbed 8 magazines. There's stacks. Just in the last year and a half, I have them stacked in my office, and it's like just the ones that are just my builds, not even like ones I've just put tires on, but just bikes I've built. Yeah. So it's kind of fun. So that's kind of cool. My most everlasting memory or thing I'll leave, I guess, is when we went on a little hike this morning, and I can count the tracks that I built in this one little area. We went on this little hike, and it's like, so I'm leaving remnants of these tracks that I built all over this area where we live. And it's kind of sad, but we're talking probably over 100 tracks that I've either built with like you and written. When I say build, people go like, how do you build a track? And a lot of people don't know. We just ride tracks. Sometimes we have to get up and move a rock. Or
you find a bush. Okay, this will be a turn here, and we'll go up around that, and we'll turn around here.
And both of us, I think, because sometimes I enjoy when I show up and you just make it, and then I bring you in and go, hey, let's try, and you're like, man, that's pretty good the way it is. And you might since you're a lot faster, a lot of times I've learned you make better arcing lines, and then once you make those lines, then I start taking them and it's better, and they're not straight. So I guess the big thing I'm leaving is these remnants of tracks all throughout Southern California.
Would you know what I'm sure a lot of people don't know, I meant to mention this earlier. When it rains out here, and guys can't go ride their tracks, because a lot of them don't do what they don't know where to go. They wouldn't go to Beaumont and make jumps or do what we used to do in the 90s. They go to a track you and I made. I think I added to it. Yeah. The old Nuevo, which when guys say Nuevo, you know where you came in by the school? Remember that one side? You know what I'm talking about. It's like the go-to for everybody now.
And there's another one over by the satellites. Those are the two.
One Heritage, which is gone. That was another one.
That's houses. But those two are the main places people are going, which is good because that's all there is to ride. Are those two places.
And other than that, you got to head to Hesperia.
Or Barstow.
Barstow, yeah.
So anyway,
you could. It'll be funny in 10, 15, 20 years when you finally are too old to ride or whatever it is. You could drive around and go, we had tracks here where these houses are. Oh, I made a really cool track here where this one is. Yeah.
So again, it's been awesome just to be able to do this for over 30 years, and it's been fun.
Well, dude, you have and this is why I like having industry guys on like yourself, because there are all of these little unseen things by most people, right? That you've got your hands on, that you've done. I mean, even from like I said, you're the godfather of the project bike. Yeah. I didn't realize you changed how track signage works. through really pissing off my buddy Bevo Forte, it sounds like. So anyway, you've just done a lot, and you've done it. I like that I've never seen you be rude to anybody. You always have a good attitude, unless I bring somebody out to a track you don't want me to bring them to. But, man, you're just a good dude with a lot of integrity and a lot of good energy.
Well, I appreciate it.
So I'm stoked to call you a friend. I appreciate you taking the time to come on here.
We're more friends in the winter.
That's not true. We just hang out more. We're friends all the time. I guess before we part, let's do this, because you do have a stack of 80s rock CDs.
You want to talk some CDs? I grabbed some real quick.
Give me your top. If you have 5, you're stuck on an island with a CD player and a cool sound system.
Yeah.
You can only bring 5 albums with you. What are you bringing?
I'm thinking it's somewhat in order here. So Tesla.
You're a Tesla guy.
Oh my gosh, Tesla.
Love Song, is that like your all-time jam?
And Modern Day Cowboy. And do you like when you keep the pick in the case from the concert?
For real?
Oh yeah. Or how about the ticket stub in the CD case? You got
Queensryche. Oh, that's a little too much for me. I can't do Queensryche.
Oh yeah.
Are you like like hard? That's pretty hard, heavy metal.
No. Queensryche's pretty melodic. Yeah. You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Okay.
We get you on there. This CD's
Dokken.
really great.
Is Under Lock and Key? Oh, that was a great album.
Right. This is one of the
Dokken, Under Lock
one of the
and Key.
best right here.
Let me see this. Let's see some of these songs.
Oh yeah. Unchain the Night. In My Dreams.
Man. That's great. So what about like
So Def Leppard. So it'd be Tesla and Def Leppard, and Hysteria is
Def Leppard.
probably one of the best albums of all time. And then, but High and Dry was made before they were popular.
What about Pyromania? No.
Yeah, this skips in between. So Pyromania is right here.
Yeah.
And
what's on this one?
And Spencer's favorite is Pyromania.
Yeah, Pyromania is legit.
But this is probably better in some ways, But Pyromania is, it's pretty dang good. I mean,
High and Dry. I don't know if I've heard this.
But it's not as popular. But it's one of those little hidden secrets. So that's a good one.
What about No Motley Crue?
Not as much. I mean, I have it. Yes, it's great. But you're saying, so I'm saying Tesla.
GNR?
Yeah,
that's
got it. But it's not one of so Tesla, Def Leppard, Dokken. Those are your, and then we followed up with
Rat.
Rat, and this is one of their best CDs. It's 81 and 91. I would say these are the best years of my life. Probably the best years of your life, right?
Well, I was a little kid. 81 I was only 6. Life was pretty good. I mean, you're probably right. Lay It Down, Slip of the Lip, great songs.
Yeah, see?
Where's Dance?
Yep, Dance.
Dance. Is that on there? Is that on? Yeah, right there. Dance.
I'll have to get my glasses on.
Yeah, I know you can't see.
But these guys over here are looking at us like we're speaking,
It's Chinese,
language.
I know.
Yeah. So that would be that. And then Sammy Hagar. And what's cool is
now, are you Van Hagar or Van Halen?
Van Hagar, for sure. I do like Sammy Hagar. I'm actually going to go see him in 1st of May in Vegas.
Someone just posted a clip, and he still gets after it.
Oh.
And what is he? Got to be close to 80?
75, 76 right in in there. It's crazy.
He still was getting it.
Oh,
dude.
yeah. Striper, for those, this is the Born Again. Yeah.
Striper. Didn't they have
To Hell with the Devil. Yeah. Yeah. In God We Trust right here. So
wasn't there a band called Wasp?
Yeah.
Is that any good? I think my sister listened to that.
Yeah, you know what it stands for. I'll tell you off the show.
I think I know.
Okay. Yeah, we won't say it here. But
I don't know any of these songs.
Yeah. Good. This is a really good album, though, if you want a good. But I would still say those are my Tesla, Def Leppard, Dokken. And then we go in with the Rat, 81. And then Queensryche. Sammy Hagar, this is his self-titled album, which Eddie Van Halen helped him with. The Eagles Fly. Really good album. So, and on our tech podcast, we do a CD review at the end of every show.
You do?
Yeah. So we want to keep dirt bikes running and helping dirt bikes,
and
but
keep
also
80s rock alive.
And keep some 80s. We tell them what to go listen to on Spotify because a lot of them don't know. And we actually have people write us. I had a guy come up to me at Glen Helen. I had never heard of Dokken, but now and he's playing it in his truck while we were talking to him. He goes, "This is so," and he's cranking it up for us as we came by.
Oh, that's so great. You should make some Spotify
playlist. I need
yeah.
to get the playlist done.
Yeah.
I've started a little bit, but need to tune it up.
All right, I'll add some because I've got some good 80s stuff that I love. But, dude, thanks again. Appreciate you coming on. Always a blast. And
it's awesome.
If you ever get to go to Jay's Garage, you can expect to see hear one of these playing in the background. So it's always a good time. Thank you guys for tuning in, as always. Stick around. We'll be back to close out the show. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to the Whiskey Throttle Show for another episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I appreciate Jay Clark taking the time to come in. One of those industry guys who's just been on the grind for years and years and really has had an impact, even though it's kind of behind the scenes. And the work he does with Dunlop is incredible. For a media guy, I'm not changing tires anymore, so it's amazing. But really, really interesting story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank a couple of our new partners. We've brought on 2 here since our last show, and like I said, I don't really actively pursue a lot of these. We've got a really amazing group of core sponsors and partners here right behind us, and but Arc Levers, if you guys are in need for your levers replacement or just looking for something better, there is not a better lever out there than Arc. They also have the Memlon lever. You guys have seen a lot of the Pro Circuit guys run these, where you can take and just bend them, and they just return right back to their normal position, but it's firm enough. It doesn't feel like it's flexing. Crazy, crazy material. Really, really amazing product. So check out Arc for any of your lever and brake needs. And then Toyota of Redlands, they're going to provide us with a truck to use. And I'm sold on the Toyota brand when it comes to vehicles. I've had a Corolla in the past. I have a Camry right now, a Tacoma, and we're going to have a Whiskey Throttle Tundra that you guys will be seeing rolling around here for the next few years. So this is an incredible partnership with these guys. They sponsor all the Star Yamaha team, a bunch of riders. So this is a group that loves motocross, supports it big time, and we're really stoked to have them join us over here at Whiskey Throttle Media and be a partner on the show. So check those guys out. We're going to be doing some live events over at their dealership as well, so stay tuned to our social media for that. Thanks for tuning in. Really cool guest coming next week, so I will let you know as soon as I can when that's coming out, but going to be awesome. Stick around, and thanks for always supporting what we do. See ya.
Cool. They also sponsor the RX team.
Oh, yeah. I guess I should have mentioned that, but whatever.